Fishing Gurus podcast.
That'd be a good one, to be fair.
Yeah. Bank of England Treasury. Bosh. There's nothing left. That's the best one, man.
Yeah.
I do academies every summer with thousands of kids. And I've heard all of the best superpowers. Teleportation, 100%. Invisibility, been done. Flying.
What about? I tell you what, I would. This would be me actually. Like, did you ever used to watch Bernard's Watch?
No.
Where he stops time.
Oh no, that'd be good.
Stops time. I'd love to be able to do that.
Yeah, but what would you do when you stop time?
I'd stop it now, put some lipstick and eyeliner on you, and then just carry on the podcast, and no one else would know what had happened. Do you know what I mean? That'd be great. I could just have my...
I feel like that's a waste of an opportunity, though, Matt.
I don't know. I quite rate that, actually.
Imagine in a fishing match. Imagine in a fishing match, you draw next to Steve Ringer, and he is battering you. You stop your clock, you go to him, 15 minutes of the match to go.
Pour petrol on his hook baits.
No, you just empty his keep net. Put a few in yours, put his keep net back on his box, click the timer.
Ringer's got a tracker. I'm sure Ringer doesn't even like fishing. He's just got like a fish magnet on him. He'd get them all back.
Yeah,
he'd still catch them all in that second half.
Yeah, he probably would, to be fair. Well, Dean Macey, welcome to the Fishing Gurus podcast. Pleasure, sir.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. We're really glad to have you.
It's about time. I've been here 3 hours.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I hit the wall about an hour ago. I was at the Tobe. I'm like, mate, I'm getting really tired. He told me to get in at 2:30. It was like 8 minutes past 6.
We had to get them KFC trumps out of the way first, didn't we?
It got bad in here, didn't it?
Yeah, it got a bit smelly, folks.
Terribly
Got a
bad.
bit smelly. Mace Dog, I've known you for a long time, and one thing I've always wanted to ask you is, what came first, fishing or athletics?
Fishing. Wow. But unbeknown to me, it was fishing. Like, it wasn't the first thing I ever wanted to do. Do you know what I mean? But, like, I'd done lots of sports when I was a kid. I'm from Canvey, from an island. So the first thing my parents told me I had to learn and be good at was swimming. So the first sport I ever got good at was swimming. I was a county level swimmer. And I did all the bits and bobs at school, rugby, football, basketball. And I was one of those annoying kids that could pick anything up physical, anything sporty I picked up super quick. And I mean, like, unnaturally quick. Unfortunately for me, that's, like the rough with the smooth. I was super slow in every other class. So science, geography, maths, history, you name it. I was the person that no one wanted to be pegged with because Dino never done any homework. Dino never finished class. Dino couldn't read. Dino was thick. But come PE, they were fighting hand and fist to be on my side because whoever team Dino was on, we won.
Fantastic.
And not because I was super competitive, but because I had a natural ability within sport. So even from a young age, I knew I was going to be a sportsman or working in sport, leisure centre coach. I didn't know, but I knew that was where I liked being. Because every other element of school life, the academic side of things, I felt like nobody. And I still do to a degree, because I'm not an academic person. I have interests, and my interests I'm extremely knowledgeable about because I'm interested in them. But other than that, I don't pick things up super, super quickly.
Where did fishing get picked up then?
Fishing got... It's a weird story, because I had no clue about fishing. I weren't interested in fishing when I was a kid. This is like pre-10 years old, right? So from 0 to 10. I had no interest in fishing. I knew my old man fish because there was a seat box, an old rickety sort of fake black leather seat box with an old rod holder with a 13-foot, like, sort of cane, orangey sort of float rod.
Probably a guru rod, to be fair,
mate,
if it were orange.
So heavy. It was written in the stars I was going to work for Guru at some stage, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And in all of that sort of stuff, and in this sort of tackle box was a couple of Mitchell where you had to wind on the reels and all that stuff.
I remember them, Mitchell matches.
That's it. There was an enormous, great big Rambo knife. And we're talking about, I'm like 9-10 years old. Rambo's on movies, do you know what I mean? All those aggressive sort of movies. And I've found my old man's diving knife from when he was a kid. And so I'd come home from school and I wasn't a bad kid. I wasn't a bad kid, but I was misunderstood and I got really bored super quickly. So I got inventive, put it that way. It's a nice way of putting it. I was a bit of a shitbag sometimes, yes. But so I'd get home from school when I was grounded and I'd go like hunting through this fishing tackle and I'd find this massive great knife and I'd just play Rambo. I had a great imagination. Like as a kid, and I think probably nowadays is slightly different, but as a kid in my generation and generations before, you didn't need to give me much to fill a whole day. Like give me Skeletor and He-Man, and I'd go in the garden, find bases in the trees, and I would just put it all together, and I would be in my element. My imagination would run wild.
Brilliant.
So give me a 9-inch blade, do you know what I mean, as a 9-year-old, and a sister that's 16 months younger that I could chase around with it. I'm like, oh my word. The only thing is I had to get it back into the garage, into exactly the same space, before my old man came home. And one day he came home and caught me putting it back, and he went, "You been playing my fishing gear, boy?" And I was like, "Yep," thinking it was the lesser of two evils. Do you know what I mean? Like, "No, Dad, I've been chasing Marie round with your big diving knife. Didn't think that was going to go down too well." I'm not academic, but I'm not stupid. And anyway, that Christmas, because of that passing sort of comment where I was like, "Yeah, I've been playing with your fishing gear," gave me the fishing gear for Christmas.
No interest in fishing.
And a mountain bike. No interest whatsoever.
Wow.
But it was ideal because, like I said, I got grounded an awful lot. And so I was grounded over Christmas. I can't remember what I did. Often I was out playing knockdown ginger.
Nice.
Yeah. Can I
Everyone
say
loves
that,
a bit of that, don't
Can I
they?
say that?
Yeah, we've all done that.
Round our way, we just run them over. No knocking on the doors. No, but so like I just
Glad I didn't live near him with his knife, Toby. I wouldn't be here now, would I?
we just do like sort of stupid stuff. And so I was grounded over Christmas. And anyway, I was thinking to myself, I was proper moody. I got this mountain bike. I weren't allowed out with my pals and all that stuff, right? No mobile phones or FaceTime. So I didn't really know. We just knocked on each other's door. And I had to stand there going, "No, not allowed out. I'm grounded till New Year." So I went and got this fishing gear out in the garden. Started putting the umbrella up and putting these rods together back to front. Didn't have a clue. Didn't have a Scooby-Doo. And it started to rain. Middle of winter, but it started to rain. I'm sitting in the garden, like a proper moody little kid. And the pitter-patter on top of the umbrella, like sort of transformed me, or like just sent me into a completely different world, like Narnia. Do you know
Magical.
what I mean?
Magical.
Do you know what I mean? Like I went through a complete mesmerising sort of door, and instantly I went from this moody kid to sitting there listening to the pitter-patter and then watching all the birds land on the trees, and I was in a completely different world. And I thought to myself, just with that experience there, not having a clue about the actual fishing and catching and hunting side of things, I thought, this is a bit of me. Like, I'm wasting my life, like, getting into mischief and stuff like that when I can be doing this.
Yeah, I'd rather go actually into the outdoors and...
I'd rather learn how to fish. I wanted from there on in, I wanted to learn how to use some of this gear.
Rather than using a 9-inch knife.
Well, I was 10 years old, come from Canvey. I kind of knew how to use it anyway.
So
but
what...
it was so we just, like, back then you didn't have internet, and we didn't have like guru masterclasses and everything like that. We just had the Art of Fishing binders. So my grandparents started buying me the Art of Fishing binders, where every week you'd buy this binder and you'd separate, know your fish, and expert advice. And
I can remember I had them myself.
Yeah,
I used
me
to go
too.
news agents, weekly trip.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I genuinely, I had dyslexia when I was a kid. And so I didn't read it. I just looked at the pictures. And so I bought all these, or my grandparents bought all these binders. I stuck them all together. And the first time I ever took myself fishing, which was down the road at King's Club, I didn't even know what a bail arm was. So I'm trying to cast and backwind this line out.
Is that not how you do it?
So I fished in the edge an awful lot, do you know what I mean? But for the first 3 trips, I completely blanked. But I'd practiced. I'd put the rod under the water, and I didn't have a clue. I actually liked not knowing, sort of thing. I'd watch all these guys sort of walk their rigs up to Kingy's garden and flick lumps of cheese out and then catch a carp or whatever. And I was just sitting the other end of the lake, so embarrassed that I didn't know what I was doing. And I'd sort of wind the float under to practice. Float goes under, strike, because I'd never actually had a bite or experienced a bite, but I didn't want to miss it.
Just in case you got one.
And I remember several times, like, sitting there for hours on end just watching this float, and then I'd sort of turn around, come back, and the float had just come up, and I'd go, no!
Can you remember your first fish?
Yeah, it was a skimmer, about 3, maybe 4 ounces.
Proper
I remember
fish.
I've got pictures somewhere, and I'm standing up with this Puma, my dad's Puma jacket. It's like grey and blue. It's proper old school sort of 80s jacket. Do you know what I mean? I'm like that. And it was my pride and joy. Do you know what I mean? It was awesome. Weren't a perch or a roach or something cool like that. It was a
little slimy, smelly skimmer.
Crappy skimmer, but it was my first ever fish.
So you got into fishing. You were good at sports at school. When did athletics, track and field, when did that encroach then? You got your interest in fishing. When did you suddenly realise, I'm not being funny, I've got Dean Macey, an Olympic athlete, Commonwealth Games gold medalist sat in front of me, and you're going fishing at the minute as a youngster and you're not into track and field?
No, track and field was the last sport I actually tried. So I played football at a decent level. Did lots of other sports at a decent level. And I think probably my sort of elevation through the track and field ranks was probably because I had a decent background of multiple sports anyway. So I picked up those events reasonably quickly, even though it's different in a way physically. But really, I mean, it all stemmed again from school. So I had some really funky PE teachers. You know, they were crap coaches, but they were amazing with regard to motivating you and making you want to do well for yourself and for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not necessarily everybody knowing about it. Just, I don't care if you come last. Just go out there and run a PB for me. Run it for you. Run it for your mum. Do you know what I mean? They'd motivate me. They'd tell me all the wrong technical input, but they'd just motivate you to go and do stuff. Possibly why I really enjoyed PE. But they got me into doing the athletics at the district sports, and I was pretty competitive, to be fair. Won most of the events that I did at the district sports, but even then, still didn't have any inkling of going to a club or doing anything competitive.
And you were still
outside.
fishing at the time as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, mate, through the 6 weeks holidays, I would literally go. My dad had dropped me off for fishing with a couple of pals, either Kieran, my mate Kieran Spong, or Darren Stacey. I remember one day, me and my mate Darren Stacey with my red Argos whip, you know, with a ring in. And
I remember them, yeah.
We had 62 gudgeon off the Blackwater by my dad's office.
Wow.
And we were just like, oh my God, it's won a chub, just fishing off this sort of like confluent sort of thing. But that's where my sort of obsession with chub came about, because every now and again we'd sit in this swim trying to catch these gudgeon, and a brace of chub would just swim past. And then we'd just grab a lump of luncheon meat and just start running after them and chucking these 4-inch lumps of meat at them, thinking, we're going to catch one soon. And we never did, obviously. And again, like I said, that is where my obsession with being a bull in a china shop as a kid and not being able to catch the chub. And now it's turned into a bit of an obsession to catch a big one. Or it certainly did.
We'll come on to that a little bit
100%.
later, definitely.
We've got to talk about my crowning glory in fishing,
Damn
obviously,
right,
the
damn
fish.
right.
But yeah, so anyway, I'd sort of done all the sports at school and done the district sports and all that stuff. And it was only on my last district sports I did the triple jump, which I won. I did the 200, which I won. But I was halfway through the high jump competition to go and do the 200 final. And because I left the high jump to do the 200 final, by the time I come back to the high jump, they'd stopped the competition. And I felt really hard done by, because my PE teacher, who's one of my best friends now, Alan Taylor, he turned around and said to me, he goes, "You're going to win 3 gold medals for us this week." And I was like, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir." And I would have done 100%, because by not going into the high jump competition, I felt a little bit of aggrieved by that. You know, I was hard done by, because I definitely would have won it. I'm not saying I would have won it by an awful lot, but as it turns out, I would have won it by 2 heights. And I know that because off my own back, and I don't know why, something grabbed hold of me, like I need to see if I was good enough. Like, I didn't know if I was going to win the 200, did it? I knew I was going to win the triple jump, and I kind of felt like I was going to win the high jump. But the high jump was still super competitive. There's a couple of guys in there that were going to push me. Anyway, long story short, I went to a club just to have a go to see if I could jump the heights that would have won it. And I did. And I did so well at this club training session at Castle Point Athletics Club that they asked me to compete the next week for them. And I was like, yeah, okay, fair enough. And come the next week, being a lazy kid wanting to go out and just get on my mountain bike or my BMX and, you know, just be mischievous for the weekend, I spat on my palms and just clammied up all my head and stuff. And I went, "Yeah, Mum, I really don't feel like it today."
Never.
And she's like, "Look, you've got the whole..." Honestly, I tried to get out of it. How you like dividing line between success and failure is so thin, isn't it?
It is as well.
I tried to get out of it, and she said, "Look, it's Saturday morning. You go and do a few hours of competing for the club like you told them you would do, and then you can go out and do whatever you like for the rest of the weekend with your pals, or you stay in your bedroom all weekend." I was like, "Oh,
Got you there.
yeah, she did. Yeah, I was back against the wall, wasn't it? Went to the competition, did the 100K. I didn't win the 100, but did the javelin, did the high jump, did a couple of other events, won them, loved it, went back training, and then it sort of just slowly progressed for the next year. But then it was kind of like the year after when I was doing the county championships, and I'd done the high jump, the long jump, the triple jump, the javelin, and the 200 all in one day. And I won 3, got a silver in 1. And I didn't do the 200 final because I was the last qualifier, really. I weren't even expected to make the 200 final. And I was knackered by then. You know, I'd already done all of these heats and all this, that and the other. So I pulled out. But a county manager turned around and said to me, "Look, we've got an octathlon next weekend for Essex, and we need a 4th person in our team. Michael Leonard," I'll never forget his name, "Michael Leonard is our Essex #1, has pulled out, he's ill. Possibly coronavirus. Nobody knows. You know? But too soon. But can you fill in?" And I was like, "Well, I've just done 5 events in one day, Dad. I'm sure I can do 8 events over 2. Piece of cake. Yeah, lovely." Didn't have a clue what the events were.
No, you
clue
didn't.
Mate, it weren't like we're talking.
Octathlon means 8. I get it now, Tove.
Oh no, I got that.
Right.
I got the 8, right? I got the 8, but I thought, well, what are they? Right? I didn't even because it's not like Google now. You know, mobile phones weren't a thing back then. You know, you didn't have FaceTime, you didn't have Google, you couldn't go, what's in a decathlon, what's in a heptathlon, what's he scored, what's that scored. You know, if you didn't know, and your mum didn't know, and your mum didn't know someone who knew, then you didn't know. Do you know what I mean? Simple as that. So I went.
So what did you have to do that you had never done before?
Hurdles, 400, and then.
Not a single one hurdle before in your life.
Mate, I remember him saying to me, look, like, I remember him saying to me in the hurdles was funny because I was like Bambi, arms and legs all over the place, but did okay, right? I remember him saying to me in the 400, he goes, do you reckon you can run sub 50 seconds? And I went, yeah? I ran 56 and mate, I was dragging myself to the line, the most pain I'd ever been in ever, and I swore blind there and then I'd never run a 400. And then come the second day, the final event, I said, right, Mr. Edwards, what's the last event? And he went 1,500 metres. I went, cool, blimey, how far's that? And he went, give or take 4 laps. And I kid you not, if he had told me that 2 weeks before, I'd have done one. No way. I've never done, at that point, I'd never done a mile in my life. Anyway, I was so slow. Rob Edwards at this point was probably, I don't know, 50 years old. He'd done the first lap with me, telling me I had to go quicker. I didn't have a clue what points or anything like that, but it turns out I won the event. And then, like literally 2 weeks later, I did the Southern England, won that. And then 2 weeks after that, done the English schools final, won that, broke the British record.
Right.
And it is this quick. And as Denise Lewis, who just won the Commonwealth Games at that point, gave me my medal, she put the medal round my neck and she said to me, well done, young man. If you carry on like that, you'll be the greatest all-round athlete in the world one day. Right? All sort of joking, tongue-in-cheek, the sort of stuff you say to people. But she didn't know right there and then how defining that statement she said to me was. Because when she said the greatest all-round athlete on the planet, most people want to be the fastest or the strongest or the biggest. For me, the greatest all-round athlete means the ultimate human being. And I was like,
you can do everything.
Fucking hell. I was like, there and then, sorry, am I that swear?
Yeah, no, you're fine.
All right. Shit, fuck bollocks. No, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, I can do anything.
What did you say to her? Did you reply?
No,
can you
she's
remember?
Super fit. I was like,
knees going weak.
Mate, I was 6'5", 11 stone. I mean, I'm still lean now. I'm 16 stone. I was 11 stone, spotty as you like, all gangly, with my dad's clothes on, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Because kids' clothes didn't get made as big back then. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I weren't in that sort of frame of mind. But no, I just thought to myself, oh my God, that's amazing.
It sounds to me like that is a ridiculously fast period of time going from not really doing any athletics to all of a sudden
no,
I
but
could
doing
be the
a
best.
lot of sport though. Yeah, doing a lot of sport. But sport was my life, just not track and field. But it was that moment, it was that sort of light bulb moment really that made me realise I don't ever want to do a single event again unless it's in a decathlon or an octathlon.
Yeah.
Year after, I went up in age group, went to the decathlon, won English schools, broke the English schools record. Went to Russia on my first international, ranked 11th in the world for my age, qualified for the World Juniors, flew all the way over to Sydney, ranked 11th. My parents cottoned on that it was probably going to be my only time competing for Great Britain in a World Championships or whatever, so they paid God knows how much to travel all the way across the world. They must have known
you were very, very good at this point.
Yeah, and I picked it up pretty quick, but at that point, I think we was all of the opinion that this is going to be me one sort of defining glory moment in track and field, because a lot of people make it to the World Juniors and never progress, you know.
Right.
It's different gravy. Went in ranks 11th, again, didn't really have a clue what to do. My coach just turned around and said to me, you can score 7.4. Make sure you score 7.4. I went and scored 7.4, 80 something, so just under 7.5, won a silver medal. Wow. Come out second. Yeah. And I remember the day after the decathlon, I mean, the night of the decathlon when it finished, I went out of everyone else and just got absolutely stonkered. You know what I mean?
Don't blame you.
I was 18 years old in Sydney. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. But I remember the day after, I went to sat in McDonald's just underneath Sydney Harbour Bridge, and I said to my parents, at this point, right, I'd finished school, first year of college, resitting my GCSEs. Right, I was told you I was shit, and not doing very well. Chucked out of maths already. And I remember saying to him, I said, look, I've been in education 10 years. I'm still stupid. I've been doing this 3 years. I'm second best in the world. I remember the old man saying, yeah, and I went, I've got to give it a go. And he went, all right, you got until the 2000 Olympics. You make the Olympics or you quit. That's it. That was my time frame.
Wow.
So I went and got a job as a lifeguard, 6:45 in the morning till midday, then trained from 1 till 4 or 5 o'clock every single day, then stacked boxes at a place called Games and Print over at the industrial estate, 6 o'clock till 10 o'clock at night. Wow. So I did me hard graft. Sort of thing, right? Did that for 3 years, went to the World Champs, or qualified in 99 for the World Champs, and I thought, right, this is where I qualify for the Olympics. Went in ranked 11th, won a silver medal. The most perfect decathlon I've ever done. Like, no injuries, didn't have no fear. I remember standing on the line in the 400 at the last event on the first day in Seville with the world record holder, the indoor world record holder, the Olympic champion, the current world champion, European champion, and then me. Wow. And I was
what a lineup!
As I was introducing me, I remember going, "Oh, he's so good! Oh, he's amazing! Oh fucking hell, got to race him!" And I just blasted the last 100 metres, come past the line, run 46.7, which doesn't mean an awful lot, but won that particular race. Wow. And
fantastic!
That sort of one race gave me the self-belief to go into the second day and hold on to my second place, and came out of a silver medal, and that transported me from, like, not a full-time athlete, but allowed to do little part-time jobs here and there and get as much training in as I possibly could, to right now I'm getting paid.
I'm going for it.
I won $20,000 then. I didn't even know about that till the day after. I remember sitting in the BBC studio and Sally Gunnell turned around and goes, "What are you going to do with the prize money?" And up until then it had all been amateur athletics for me. So I'm like, "Hey,
what prize money?"
I went, "What prize money?" She goes, "Well, it's $20,000 for a silver, isn't it?" Sue Barker goes, "Yeah." Roger Black goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Fucking A." I went, "I'm going to buy a Subaru Impreza Turbo." And then Steve Backley, as I walked out, turned around and said to me, he goes, "Yeah, did you say you was going to buy an Impreza Turbo with that prize money?" I went, "Yeah." He went, "Don't be a dickhead, put it into an house." And I'm still living in that house that money paid the deposit for.
Wow. Superb. And something that I've got to ask you is, between that age of sort of 16 and 20, when you started your athletics seriously and you're at the point where I'm going to do this for a job now. Yeah. What happened to your fishing in them years?
That's the only part of my life when I weren't fishing.
Right.
I just didn't have time. And to be fair, I didn't want to. Like fishing, like I said, during the 6 weeks holidays when I was a kid, the only two things I ever did, once I'd sort of found that sort of outdoory sort of passion, sitting under the brolly, pitter patter and stuff like that. My granddad used to drop me off at Hadley Downs with some pals, and we used to go around, climb trees, make bases, and cuckoo, have little private calls and all that stuff. When people were coming, because we'd spy on them or whatever, collect like owl poo and just dissect it, try and make a complete mouse skeleton, all that sort of weird and wonderful, geeky, tree huggy sort of stuff that kids used to do.
Love it.
So I'd either do that, or my old man would drop me off at like Danbury Lakes, and I'd sort of watch John Wilson on Go Fishing and just lift method fish at dawn up by the trees and the snags for the tench, and then go and fish out in the open water, up in the water for the rudd and stuff like that. And just, I'd only fish a couple of hours, then the sun would come up, get a bit hard, then I'd just go climb trees, little pen knife, carve some things into some trees.
So
the
fishing
like
were just a part of it for you in them early days?
It's all it was. I weren't super serious. I liked catching fish, but I also just loved being out there. And so it was like one of those two sort of things. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, up until really the World Juniors, my fishing was all about that. Just getting out with my pals, doing something different, staying away from the wrong crowd sort of thing. Because I wasn't a bad kid, but I did enjoy the buzz of getting chased. Possibly why I was super quick when I picked up track and field.
You're fast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And I did stand out as well. But so yeah, I mean, once I'd found that was the only thing I really wanted to do in the Easter holidays and summer holidays, and that's pretty much as far as my fishing went. I wasn't one of those super keen people that wanted to be an angler or wanted to catch massive fish. I was happy catching rudd up in the water and tench in the margins, and then just go and feed in the carp because I didn't really have the skills to catch them. But as a kid, because I wanted to get out fishing more, and really my old man never really fished. He was too busy working. My granddad was also the same. So for me to actually learn and travel a little bit further afield, I remember my mum one day, she goes, "Do you want to join a club?" I went, "Oh, I don't know." She went, "Oh, let's see if we can join you a club." So back then, it's not running no more. Back then there was the Lobster Smack Freshwater Angling Club, and the chairman was a guy called Les Westbeach. And I remember my mum, I was 14 years old, maybe a bit younger, but he took me around to his house. And I remember, pictured the house now. He don't live there now. But Les is probably my oldest mate now. He's going under sort of the knife for some heart surgery soon. I nearly killed him off last October. Caught him some big carp. I
remember you telling me about this. I bet he loved that.
He kind of did. He was laying on the floor for the good 10 minutes afterwards trying to get his breath. But No, she took me around to his house and she said, look, this is my son Dean. He really loves fishing. You run a club. You do matches once a month and you go practicing and meet up and all that stuff. Can he join your club? And he went, well, I'll never forget, as he, like, big beard and stuff, like standing on there. He's a dry old boy, he's Les. And he goes, he said, we don't really have youths in the club, he said, but the fact that he's over 6 foot, I'm sure I could make an exception. And so he used to drive me around all over the place. And every time he used to come pick me up, my mum used to buy him a little roll-up packet of Golden Virginia smokes. Do you know what I mean?
Bit of bribery there.
Yeah, as sort of petrol money sort of thing. And so he taught me the sort of fundamentals. You know, I had the art of fishing, I had Les. And then later on, me, Les, and a guy called Georgie Blackburn used to meet almost every single one of me days off. And we used to meet at the Little Chef on the 127 and go Thorndon Park bream fishing, or just go to the local open matches or something like that. So, like, I had a really eclectic sort of way of fishing when I was younger, all the way up to probably 2000. And that's how I liked it. And even in 2000, I didn't have any ambitions of being an angler or catching monster fish or anything like that. It was just love fishing.
Amazing.
Just love being there.
Amazing how it turned out.
It was the unknown. It's always been the unknown that gets me, do you know?
Yeah. Well, after the time off, sort of between 16, 20, Seville 1999, I know something significant happened to you at that World Champs, didn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a funny story. It's a funny and crap story at the same time. So
we've got to hear it.
So after the pole vault, we had 4 hours. So the hardest part of the decathlon isn't the events. It's the waiting around. So generally, the first day takes 11, 12 hours, right? And actually, running the 100, going straight into the long jump and then going straight to the shot put's easy. You just go. You just do it. It's kind of like training, you know. You prepare yourself for that. You don't prepare yourself for the 2-3 hours of laying around in a cramped out little room with a load of stinky feet and stuff, you know. That's the bits where you start having psychological games with yourself. Anyway, so second day, I'm in second place. Everyone's fighting hand and fist to do anything they can for me to make sure that I'd sort of perform in the last 2 events, the javelin and the 1500. And there's 4 hours between the pole vault and the javelin. So someone turned around and says to me, they go, look, we've got 4 hours break. It's all confirmed. It's in the timetable, on the TV schedule, everything like that. Do you want to go back to the hotel, have a shower and all that? I went, yeah. I'm going to unload my bag, get a bit of fresh food, have a shower, and just come back. 2 events, job done. So we go all the way back to the hotel. It's probably a 25-minute clean journey through Seville Town Centre to this hotel. All security and everything like that, but just a normal hotel. And I'm in the shower, and next thing I know, doors just smashed open. My coach is in the shower room. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, mate, they brought the javelin forward 2 hours.
Never.
No.
Yeah. I'm like,
Oh, God, no.
shit. So literally just like wet clothes all going on, bag that hasn't been unloaded just literally over my back. And
That's like a bad dream, isn't it?
Terrible.
Yeah,
Mate,
that is.
I
It's
thought
like a nightmare, isn't
I
it?
was like, Greg, this ain't funny. He's like, no, seriously. And Greg didn't laugh. Greg didn't tell a joke. Didn't tell a very good joke anyway. I was like, that's way too good for him. So bag over my back, legging it downstairs, and like we've got this little UK athletics bus so we can transport people all over the place, right? And everyone's just going garrity in the reception of this hotel to try and get me into a bus to get me back to the stadium. And the old Bills collared it. It all looks a bit suspicious. And they're like standing there like that, not letting us out. So like translator comes over and tells him the story. He's like, you follow us. And I have a bus with me in it and my coach and my physio and my doctor and like team management and stuff like that, right? With 4 police motorbikes, braking red lights, down the one-way seat.
Awesome.
Mate, it was a
mate,
proper
that's like
Blues
something
and
out of a
Twos.
movie.
Mate, honestly, it got to the stadium. Everyone had left the warm-up area. Everyone had gone through call room 1, call room 2. The whole of the decathlon field are out there warming up. I didn't have a warm-up. I went straight out to the stadium. I was the first one up to throw. I literally picked up a Coke can. It was Powerade bottle, right? But it's sponsored by Coke. So I picked up a Powerade bottle, had a swig, looked at the run-up. I thought, fuck it, that'll do. Put the Powerade bottle down there. Got into the stance, ran up through a PB.
Get away.
But in throwing the PB, I snapped my elbow.
Oh, dear.
I actually remember, I'll never forget the sound. It was like a 2x4 being done over your leg. But as I hit this javelin, I remember hearing the noise and then seeing the javelin just whistle off into the distance. I'm thinking, well, what the fuck just snapped then? And then the sensation starts
Did
kicking
you
in.
feel anything? What did it
Yeah.
feel like that?
Like pain, but worse.
Oh.
No, it was like a to be fair, I was still adrenaline up, wasn't I? But it was like more throbbing than anything else.
And did your team around you know what had happened at that point?
No. But obviously, like the limp arm, and I only took 1 throw. That was it. First throw, PB. I tried to pick up the javelin for the second throw. Hand didn't work or anything like that. Because the nerve engines are. It weren't good.
First serious injury that, Dean, as well?
No, I'd already had surgery. My first surgery actually was in '97, and a flatline from that.
Wow.
Sort of glaze over that bit, just because of the reaction that I had from the the morphine. So every surgery that I had from there on in, like they had to monitor me super closely with the morphine intake and all that stuff.
Can you remember anything from flatlining? But by that, I'm assuming you mean that line on the old beep beep goes flat.
I saw the light.
No.
Fucking kid you not. I saw everything.
Go on, tell me.
So I'm in the recovery room, and the nurses took. So I've had basically a plate and some screws put in my foot, and they've taken a bone graft from my hip. Don't know how old I was, but I certainly weren't a pro. Do you know what I mean? This is between the winning the World Juniors and winning the World Champs in '99. So this is '97, I believe, maybe '98. Anyway, so I'm in the recovery room. Nurse turns around and says to me, like, I'm all waking up, all ditzy, feeling a bit sick, all like you do. And she said, how you feeling? I said, well, my hip's ever so sore. Couldn't feel my foot. I said, my hip's ever so sore. She goes, I'll just give you a little dab of morphine, right? I'm assuming they already give me a bit. And she just gave me a little bit of morphine, and that was it. I remember literally, she asked me another question about 30 seconds later, and I couldn't answer her. I was trying to turn and look at her, and then like a big white glaze, I saw it's going to sound stupid, but I saw like a dark sort of shape at the bottom of my bed.
Oh, mate.
And then that was it. In and out of, I was in 9 days, injecting me with adrenaline, keep the old ticker going and all that stuff.
Isn't it weird you can remember that, though?
Yeah,
Do you believe in that sort of stuff?
No, not life after death or anything like that.
Even though you've had that experience?
No. I got, I think everyone that goes through something like that, when something pretty much goes quite badly wrong and you have a narrow escape. I mean, look, I know we're talking about a long time ago, but things like that happen quite a lot in hospital. So it's like terrifying for me, but quite routine for a lot of the people there, I'm sure. Hope so. But I suppose I was too young to really think, got to make the most of every day from now on. You know, it weren't me. I was just thinking, get me fucking out of here, because I want to compete, I want to train, I want to watch go fishing. You're
not that sort of person.
No,
I'm
not I'm not a faffer.
No.
I'm a lagger.
Ligger. This is a story to this, Tobe. We have liggers and faffers in fishing. Faffers are people like Rooney who faff about a lot. Liggers are people like Dean who basically puts the biggest hook on and the biggest hook bait on and fishes for a big one. So
no messing about.
No.
And Rooney.
They want it, they can have it. If they don't, sod them.
Exactly.
Wow. So that was my first surgery. So anyway, when I busted my elbow, I had to go and have it all repaired and stuff. First surgery went pretty bad. So I had the surgery, came out, went on holiday, had to fly back and have emergency surgery to refix the elbow. So this is all sort of around Christmas time, 1999. And that sort of recovery period, that elbow didn't really repair, ever. But in the second surgery, it damaged all the nerve endings. So going into the 2000 Olympics, like I had a crooked hand, all like this.
Yeah.
And about 3 days out from the 2000 Olympics, I remember going and trying to throw discus. And I hadn't really done much discus over that year, purely because my hand was all crook. I couldn't actually move my fingers at all. I remember about 3 days before, me, Greg, and a guy called Charles Van Commenay, Greg Richards, my coach, and a guy called Charles Van Commenay went to a practice track away from the holding camp, so no one could see or anything like that. And I put about 30 discuses in the cage. Didn't get.
What's that mean, Dean?
Well, there's a cage around the discus circle,
Yeah.
so we don't kill people, basically. All right, so a discus comes out your hand at a stupid rate of knots. It weighs 2 kilos, got quite a sharp edge on it. That hits you in the
It's
edge.
a weapon, isn't it?
You're brown bread, yeah. So, but the door of the cage is like 4 garage doors. So it ain't hard, even though you're doing a rotation, it ain't hard to get it out there. Like you do 100 throws. If you have a bad session, you put 2 in the cage.
Right.
I don't know how many throws I had. I walked off in the end just like fuming.
3 days before the Olympics.
Yeah, like
Sydney.
right in the mouth of the starting day, and I couldn't get a discus out of the front of the cage. So not an ideal situation, but the sort of saving grace for the 2000 Olympics was that I'd run myself into wicked running and jumping shape. Like I jumped amazing, and I run every single one of them events. Awesome.
Would you say that that's the best shape you've ever been in?
100%. Well, to be fair, 2000, 2001 were definitely the best shape I've ever been in.
There you go.
Because I was super competitive in 2001 as well.
Look at him there,
Mate,
Toe.
he looks like an animal, doesn't he?
Looks
like
like
a racehorse, but without the tackle.
That is a joke. That is
what
an
I said.
absolute joke.
Look at his legs. You've got muscles on muscles.
What's what does
16
it?
stone still there, though.
Yeah,
Wow.
you're lean
So
as
it's a
ever
lean
there,
16
innit?
stone, innit?
Yeah.
I was better, heavy. Because we trained so much, my issue through training was keeping weight on. So I'm naturally quite a lean, skinny sort of guy. So trying to keep my body at about 16 stone, about 100 kilos, was an effort.
I
That's
just
a
can't believe how
joke.
big you are.
What does it feel like to be in that peak of fitness, that level of fitness? How does it feel?
Invincible. It's going to sound weird, that, innit? I mean, before we went on air, we was talking about superheroes.
Yeah, we were.
Like, this is one of the reasons why I always ask people, because the most perfect I've ever been is when I was competing. Like, imagine, like, everyone's heard of this, like, tunnel vision. It's like a mythical thing that sprinters do, and they go, right, activate the mechanism. You ever seen For the Love of the Game? Kevin Costner. No. Amazing movie. He's a baseball pitcher throwing his last game.
Get it on our movie list, Tobe.
Yeah,
people are recommending from the podcast.
So Fitty's in it too, which you'll like. But the bottom line is, it's a great movie. And when he goes up to the pitcher's plate, I think that's what they call it, and he goes to pitch, he goes, activate the mechanism. And all of the crowd noise and stuff just sort of blurs out.
Wow.
And the only time I've ever in my entire life, even from a kid, heard the crowd was that very first 400 metres. And my legs, about 200 metres in, started feeling like someone else's. Like
this is your first ever Olympics?
No, this was the first ever 400 I ever run. You know,
wow.
Decathlon? That's the only time I've ever heard anyone or anything outside of my own little bubble when I've raced. Isn't it weird? Now, when you turn around and say to someone, yeah, when you run 100 or the hurdles or even the 400, when that gun goes, you can't hear 100,000 people screaming, yet you can hear your heartbeat, you can hear your feet, you can hear people coming up on your shoulder. You can hear all that and the pin drop, but you can't hear 50 to 100. That's you can understand that when an event or something lasts for 40 seconds. But I get that in the 1500 and that bugger lasts 4 minutes. And in that 4 minutes, I can't hear a single person.
What's going through your mind when you're doing an event like that?
No one's going to beat me ever. I was. Usain Bolt was a laughy, jokey sort of guy, and I wasn't. For me to get into that frame of mind, I was a bit more of an aggressive. Like, I had to try and get nasty with myself and with other people, sort of thing. You know, that was the way I sort of activated the mechanism. But that is the most perfect I've ever been and ever will be. Because at that point, you could take a bat to my head and the bat breaks. That's how you feel. Yet at the same token, when you're training for major championships like that, remember we're actually peaking. If you think of a pyramid, you know, footballers get to sort of 3/4 of the way up the pyramid because they've got to stay at a super fit level for an entire season. We're trying to get to the absolute pinnacle of that pyramid because we only want to be there for 1 week a year.
And is it possible to do that?
Yeah, super possible. But you've got to realise that trying to get into that sort of fitness is like climbing up a mountain. And that mountain, the summit of that mountain changes every single time. Sometimes it's there, other times it's there, other times it's there. Do you know what I mean? But you take one step too many and you fall straight off the cliff the other side. And so you're like, as much as you're like superhuman in every way, shape and form, like you just get up in the morning and you just feel like Superman, you're literally a gnat's knacker away from being broken. Like a Formula 1 car. Take a Formula 1 car down the high street, won't do a lap because of the bumps and bruises it sustains.
It's a balance.
Yeah, it's a super weird balance. And I guess the fitter you are, the closer to breaking down you are. And it is a really fine dividing line. So, but it's an amazing, like I said, that's the most perfect you'll ever feel. When you can shut 100,000 people out of your mind without even considering it. Like, you don't even work on it. It's just a natural thing that happens when the gun goes. And like leading up to a race or an event or whatever, like I'm super nervous. And I always say to the kids when I'm coaching them, like, you only get nervous about things you care about. So that's good. You know, if you're nervous, it means you care what you do, how you do. Doesn't matter if you win or lose, you care about your own performance. You know, and I got nervous because you got to remember, like, it's not like other sports where you get multiple bites of the cherry every single year. I had 2 days of competition and 9 to 10 months every single year preparing for it. So if I knackered any of those 10 events up, that's my entire year gone. My income, my earnings, possibly my career done. So the pressure that's on you when you do a major champs, a Worlds, Olympics, Europeans, whatever, Commonwealth Games, it's enormous. And so people ask me all the time, is it better catching a massive fish or is it better winning a medal? Well, they're not really comparable, because when you catch a massive fish, 15, 16 pound barbel, 50, 60, 70 pound carp, whatever, the excitement's there because you almost don't expect it. You know, when a big one pops up, unless you're sight fishing, you're like, fucking, whoa, get it under there. It's excitement, right? It's a surprise. Winning a medal ain't a surprise because I've prepared my entire life, my entire year for that. So I expect it. The only thing that can go wrong is sodding something up. And so when you do well, and I've got to say this though, like in my entire career, I never really underperformed. I never walked away thinking, even though I didn't walk away from any Olympics with medals, I still walked away with either a PB or a season's best or better than I probably should have done.
What happened in your first ever one, Sydney, 2000?
Well, I was probably belt Well, I came fourth, didn't I? And I suppose the most painful part of coming fourth was the fact that when I went into the 1500 metres, my coach said to me, you need to run a PB. So I went out and I ran a 6-second PB. And then when I finished, because the guy that actually won the bronze medal ahead of me was so far behind in the 1500 metres, for probably 90 seconds, they had my name up in third place for that amount of time. No. And so I was walking around thinking, come on, Chris, come on. I knew his name, number and points had to go up. But seeing my name and points in third place for probably 90 minutes, 2 minutes, standing out with 100,000, 80,000 people, whatever
you felt
it was.
Sick.
Oh, don't. Just listening.
Yeah.
That was sick. And I knew it was close.
And at that point, you can hear the crowd. You can hear
everything. At that point, you can hear a needle drop. Because everyone's waiting for the numbers to go up. It's Sydney, isn't it? So, we're sort of like, English, the Brits are kind of Australians anyway. So the crowd was full of Australians. It was me, a Czech, a Yank, and an Estonian. So they wanted me to get one of the medals over them, didn't they? Do you know what I mean? So it was literally, you could hear a pin drop.
And how did you feel when the result came in?
Oh, sick, mate. Sick. Even now it makes me feel sick. I scored a PB. And I've got to be honest, I mean, I felt hard done by, to be fair, for a long time. With the 2 elbow surgeries, going into it being dealt a bit of a dodgy hand, and by that I mean like that, I thought that, more than likely, I would have scored 100 more points if I had a decent arm and I would have done the shot and the discus anywhere like I normally do, and that would have got me a gold medal, let alone a fourth. And so I mulled over that for quite some time. I'm not bitter. Imagine. I'm not bitter. Like, we all get dealt shit hands. Do you know what I mean? That's life.
I'm ginger.
But I dealt, mate. That's exactly what I thought. At least I ain't Godfrey.
Mate, Dean, it could be so much worse.
I was super depressed up until you joined Guru, and then I was like, but truth be told, I look back on it and I think to myself, you did all right with what you had.
Yes.
That's all you can do in life, isn't it? You roll with the punches and you make the best of a bad situation. And actually, when I look back, like I said, I run amazing. I jumped amazing. I didn't throw particularly well, but I still scored the best score I'd ever scored. So again, I went into that thinking, with the cards that I was dealt, I've got to score a PB. I did that. It weren't good enough. And I say to my kids, look, it don't matter where you come, first or last. If you walk off the track with a PB, you've got to hold your head up high. And it was hard. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It was hard doing them interviews. It was hard. Did
you ever, at any point during them Olympics and big events, think about fishing, talk about fishing? Did it ever come in?
Not halfway down the pole vault run. I'm thinking, God damn, this would make an amazing pole.
I'd love to get some elastic in there.
Yeah, I reckon I could cast a 5-ounce lead a long way with this. No, when it was business. But that's one of the reasons why when I was training as a professional athlete, and a lot of people, they split their training. So a couple of hours in the morning, a couple of hours in the afternoon. I used to do it all in one, ready to go at 9 o'clock, finish by 2, half 2. And then sometimes I'd finish with my gear in the car, drive 2.5 hours to the River Kennet, bait a swim for a couple of hours, have a kip, and then fish till 11 o'clock, catch a couple of double-figure barbel, drive home by 1:30, and then start training again the next day.
So fishing was still obviously a big part of your life.
Massive part. But the thing is, for me, even though people live, breathe, and shit sport now, it seems to be like you have a dietitian, a biomechanic, someone that cuts your toenails. It's so intricate, sport nowadays, that for me it was like, once I walked off that track, I didn't think about it. That was it. Done and dusted. I'd done the very best I could for those 4 or 5 hours I was on the track training. Now I don't think about it. If I need physio, I'll go get physio. If I need doctor, I'll go get doctor. If I need fishing, I'll go do fishing.
Yeah.
2002 Commonwealth Games, Manchester. That was a significant one for you.
Yeah, it was. Because the Commonwealth Games, and I'll hold my hands up, Commonwealth Games out of all 4 of the major champs are probably the weakest, I mean, it depends. If you're a Jamaican, or if you're a Brit and you're trying to win the 100 metres, you've got the Jamaicans. So it ain't the weakest in that respect. But certainly decathlon, the Europeans and the Americans are super strong. So coming to 2002 Commonwealth Games in Manchester, in England, in your home country, and you've got pretty much the nation backing you, at that point being a reasonably big deal, and an almost dead cert gold medal. And by that I mean it was won with 7,800 points in the end, because I blew my hamstring up 2 weeks before, and I was probably going to score 8,500 if not 8,600. So
annihilation.
It would have been a walk in the park. It literally was a walk in the park. Just writing was on the wall. Just be healthy. And I did my very last training session and blew my hamstring up. But the reason being, let me tell you, the only justification I have is that I never done one training session just to be good enough. I done a training session every single day to be the best I could be. And so when my coach turned around and said to me, do a 3-2-1, right, I knew an easy 3-2-1 would be enough.
What's a 3-2-1?
300, 200, 100.
Right.
So it's one of the intense sessions you do as you're leading up to sort of just peaking and sort of tapering off. Plenty of recovery, full recovery, just fast, you know. And I blew my hamstring up in the 300 because I went out at race pace and did it hard. But I did that all the time. You know, I trained my way. You know, because I genuinely, even going into the Commonwealth Games, I didn't believe. I believed I was the best in the Commonwealth, and I was definitely going to win that. But I didn't believe I was best in the world. And for me, that Commonwealth Games wasn't about the Commonwealth Games. It was about me possibly scoring the top score in the world that year, maybe biting off more than I can chew. If that's the case, fair enough. You know, shoot me down for trying too hard. But I run that session like my life depended on it every single day. And that's how I trained and that's how I competed. And I think that's one of the reasons why I never really underperformed, because every one of my training sessions was like an Olympic final for me.
Yeah.
Didn't eat breakfast because I was super nervous before a training session. You know, I did that for 10 years. And so when I got to a comp and I was sort of sickly nervous in my belly, it was sort of par of the course for me. But yeah, that was a tough one to take in 2002. Dropped a load of sponsors because of it. You know, I don't really think about the financial implications because I never once in my entire career raced for money. That's the one thing, if I could go back. I wouldn't say go back, Dino, and buy Bitcoin. I'd say go back, Dino, and earn more money. but again, I did it my way. Yeah, my agent hated me because once I'd won a medal or done well in a major champs, back then, before 2012 Olympics, you know, world medals and Olympic medals were sort of few and far between. So when I was one of 3 athletes in Seville and one of 3 athletes to come home from the world champs in Edmonton in 2001 to win medals, you know, there was a lot of work going around, a lot of corporate work, a lot of sponsorship work and things like that. But I'd get to sort of like Christmas time, earn enough to see me the rest of the year, and I'd ring my agent and say, right, don't call me. He'd be like, what?
I'm having a break.
But I go, no, don't call me. I've got enough to see me through. I just want to train. I just want to compete. It was like living the lottery. I didn't want a lot. I just wanted enough to do what I needed to do. And I loved that. Do you know what I mean? It was super simple.
Surely that's
Get up in the morning, try and whack a bit of breakfast down.
Yeah.
Lisa didn't work or anything. Lisa was a full-time babysitter. My wife, bless her, when I retired, she said, you're a much better husband now. And I went, what do you mean? She said, well, you know, when you was competing, you was distant, which is her way of saying I was a dickhead, you know. But I think when you're a competitive person, you, unbeknown to you, you become a bit selfish. And for after 10 years, your wife to turn around and say you was a distant husband for a decade, you know, you got to think, fucking hell, I've got a winner there, ain't you?
I think that,
do you know what I mean?
That's a common theme in these podcasts, and I'm sure that we'll hear from people at the top of the game the word selfish quite a lot.
Yeah.
In fishing, you've just mentioned it in athletics.
It's one of the reasons I'm not competitive in almost everything that I do now, because I like the person that I am now. Looking back, I admire the person I was. I didn't like him.
So 2004 Commonwealth Games, Manchester, the big one, didn't happen for you?
2002. No. And the worst part of that was that BBC offered me a commentary gig and I stood there and I commentated on Claston Bernard scoring 7,800 points and taking home what I considered at the time to be my Commonwealth Games medal.
Did you mention that you felt if you were there you could have done better?
Oh, I'd have smashed it. Everyone knew. The thing is, you don't have to tell people if people know.
Right.
And the more you tell people, the less it seems to become reality. Do you know what I mean? That was tough. That was the lowest part of probably the lowest part of my life, really. Aside from losing people and pets and things, which is obviously a lot more humane, that was the lowest part, you know, career-wise of my entire life. Like, I didn't take that very well.
How did you pick up out of that, Dean?
Well, I fucked off fishing. And I remember Lisa saying to me, she said, look, you've been a real dickhead now. Like, she was blatant, she can put her foot down, bless. She's only 5'1", you know, she's an absolute worldie, but she's 5'1", and when she knows I need a bit of tough love, she can give it to me. And she said, look, go fishing for 48 hours, sort your life out. And I said, I don't want to go fishing for 48 hours. I was like Kevin and Perry. I was like, I don't want to go there. And she went, go linear. I went, no, I don't want to go there. She went, go to the River Lea. I don't want to go there. She went, well, go to France then. So I went to Fisherville for a week.
Nice.
So I went Fisherville for a week, sat up on the dam wall, just fished to myself, come home. She went, right, you sorted yourself out? I went, yeah. She goes, what are you going to do? So I'm getting back on the horse. She went, right, have a shave, go and have a wash, let's do it. And that was it. That was the start of getting back on. It weren't like I wanted to give up. I mean, I think, and to be fair, I mean, throughout my career, I had a few low points. And if I had anything else, if I was more academic and had something to go and do, I possibly would have done. But I didn't have anything else to do. And I didn't have anything else I was as good at. And I didn't have anything else that I could turn around and say, I'm one of the best in the world at. So how do you give that up until you're absolutely broken? You don't, do you?
No, and I know what you're like.
No,
we all,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we all have wobbles. Like, you know what I mean? We all have wobbles. I remember going to see, so my 3 sit down and have a beer with have always been John Wilson, tick that off, Sir Randolph Fiennes, tick that off, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Ain't probably going to do that, but
I'll have a word.
Never
for
know.
you,
We'll
mate.
see what happens after this podcast.
Yeah, I've heard he's at Nando's. Anyway, so I went and watched Sir Randolph Fiennes talk once, and someone asked him a question, and they said, "What stops you from giving up when you're on some of these crazy challenges?" And he said, "I just don't want to be the first." And the guy goes, "What?" He said, "I want to give up all the time." He said, "I'm in so much pain. I'm so tired. I'm so hungry. I'm so fatigued. I'm in so much pain. I want to give up. If my mate broke his ankle, I will give up there and then." He said, "But I don't want to be the first." And I say to the kids all the time when I'm doing academies, I don't care what your reason is, just don't give up. It might be because you want to be the best, or you want to be better than him, or you just don't want to be the first. Don't matter. Don't matter what that reason is. If you can find a reason, that's good enough. And so throughout my career, I always thought about that. Like, don't matter what the reason is. As long as you could keep going, you keep going.
And what was next for you?
Well, after the 2002, really, it was a couple of years of just sort of petering around and trying to make teams and stuff like that. But then it obviously came down to, I'm getting on a bit now. And then 2006 Commonwealth Games started looming. And 4 years before, obviously, I'd had that disappointment in 2002 in Manchester. I'm thinking, I'm like 29 now. How old was I? 29. I'm thinking this is probably my last bite of the cherry. And it worked.
Flipping heck, I'm 29.
Yeah, but it's 29's young, but not in an athletics age. So it comes. It's getting to the end of 2005. 2005 was a good year for me.
What about 2004 Olympics?
Oh Christ, yeah.
Forgot about that one.
Oh, I did that as well.
Forgot about that.
Did that as well.
We've
Yeah.
got to talk about that because there were a little bit of fishing come out of the back
Do you
of
know
that
what
one,
the funny
wasn't
thing
there?
is? When I said I was petering around, I was thinking, I didn't fucking peter around ever. I must have missed something out. Yeah, so 2004 Olympics. Yeah, so the funny thing is, right, like 2004 Olympics, I had a couple of bits and bobs go wrong on the way into it. But, you know, that's sort of just niggles and stuff. That's part and parcel of it. You know, you point me at an athlete at that sort of level that doesn't have something to moan about. You know, I love the niggle anyway. Took my mind off the important part. Anyway, so I'd done the decathlon, came fourth again, and this time I'd done a lap of honour because I actually went into it thinking, I ain't in that great a shape. I reckon I could probably score about 8.4, which I did, scored 8.4 or 80 or something, and I reckon that would probably get me maybe top 8. Top 8's a big thing because obviously that's the number of people that are in the Olympic finals in the running event. So if you make top 8, that's a final. That's a certain amount of like sort of funding through UKA and all that stuff. So. Anyway, long story short, come fourth, did a lap of honour with the winners, didn't I?
Fair
like,
play.
Yeah, man. I was proper happy with it. Do you know what I mean? Came back and someone said, I can't remember who interviewed me. And they went, fourth place again, Dino. You must be so disappointed. What are you going to do now? I said, well, no, actually, I was quite happy with that. I scored the season's best. I thought I was going to come 10th, so I've outperformed by 6 places, if you don't mind. I said, but I've got a week in France booked. And they went, what are you doing in France? I went, I'm going fishing. I'm knackered. It's the end of a long season. I'm going fishing. And they were all like taken aback. Anyway, day after, my agent rings, goes, Discovery's on the phone. Do you want to do a fishing show? I went, hey? They went, yeah. Got a company, urge your interview. Do you want to do a fishing show? I went, fuck yeah. Sweet. So I went and done the fishing show on course, which was the start of sort of petering or dipping my toe into like a fishing career kind of. Got a little bit of sponsorship because of the show. Met a load of cool anglers. But actually the best part about that show was the fact that it introduced me to the all-round side of things. Because at that time I was doing a bit of match fishing, a bit of carp fishing. I bet it was one or t'other.
What was the show all about, Dean? I never watched it.
I got DVDs.
Can I have some?
I've signed them too.
What was it all about? Because obviously
No,
they were listening to you here. There were other people involved, lots of different styles of fishing.
It was a wonderful format. Not really done brilliantly, and I'll say this as well, not really presented fantastically anyway. But it was my first outing, and really, all the premise of the sort of show was that I went around to some local experts on various different venues for various different species and tagged along, and we went fishing. They told me a few stories of some of the big uns and tried to catch me. Well, they guided me to a few spots where I could possibly catch a few big uns. Ray Walton was the barbel expert. The crew buggered off because they wanted to beat the rush hour. Ray got his camera out and I caught a 12-12 afterwards. That's possibly one of my best.
Is it on the show?
Yeah. Possibly one of my best TV moments, even though it wasn't on TV, because they sort of rolled it on, and this is what happened after the crew left, sort of thing.
Super.
That was my first ever double-figure barbel. I caught my first 3 double-figure barbel on that show, actually.
Amazing.
Phil Smith for the bream, Tench Horak for the chub, Terrier for the carp, Pete Redding for the grain. I mean, the list of uber specimen anglers goes on. And after that, I thought to myself, why am I wasting my time sitting on a commercial, waving my pole around, catching bits like that, trying to win the pools of 50 quid or something, or trying to catch one carp when I can go and catch big fish of everything. And that's where I come up with a thing like fishing's like a rainbow, like I want to experience every single colour. I don't mind doing a lot of carp fishing, don't mind doing a lot of barbel fishing, I don't mind sitting on a box, but I don't want to do that all year, every year. I want to do the lot, there's so much to experience. And so out of 2005 came, even though I didn't compete in 2005, out of 2005 came, I got married to my wife. So that was a great year there.
Poor Lisa.
Bless her. Yeah. Best capture of my life, darling. and that show, and that was sort of like the start of the fishing.
I think it's amazing how your first ever TV fishing show came out of athletics. Basically,
do you know the funny thing is when I speak to someone and they go, "God, you got it easy," you get on TV, and I was thinking, if you think getting a fishing show's easy by trying to get to the Olympics and win them,
yeah.
But yeah, it was right place, right time. I could easily have not said that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I could easily have gone.
Spur of the moment in an interview.
Yeah, exactly.
After
the Commonwealth Games in 2006, I had a. So I remember this went viral, and my mate Steve down in Kent, he always winds me up. So after the 2006 Commonwealth Games, after every single training session, I used to walk a lap, and everyone used to think I used to walk a lap to cool down. I didn't. I walked a lap because every year I had one opportunity. I had one opportunity to show people what I could physically do over 2 days. And then I had one opportunity, 5 minutes long, at the end of each day to show people what I was, like my personality, I guess, right? And so I used to try and work out little quirky lines. If I won, lost, got my arse kicked, whatever. And every time I used to walk these laps, I used to think about how I was going to answer certain questions. And I'm sure we'll talk about Commonwealth Games in a bit, but I'll tell you this while I'm thinking about it now. But I thought to myself, if I win the Commonwealth Games next year, this is in 2005, and the Commonwealth Games were early in 2006.
Right.
So March. They were in Melbourne, in Sydney, right? So they were early. So I weren't going to be far off, even though it was a year away sort of thing. I remember thinking, I'm going to win these ones. How am I going to make this the best interview ever? Like that I can make it. Because just winning and going, I did better than him and better than her or whatever. I didn't want it to be one of those classic sort of no-brainer, monotone interviews. You know what I mean? So I thought, I know what I'm going to say. And so when I won the Commonwealth Games 2006, someone said to me, and they went, "Oh my God, how'd you feel?" And I came back with this line that I'd worked out the year before, and I went, "This is definitely up there amongst the 3 best things of my life," knowing full well they was going to come back and go, "Well, what are the other 2?" And I went, marrying my wife and catching my first 7-pound chub. And that absolutely went viral. It was brilliant.
I love it.
I used to love them little quirky lines because the athletics industry just totally did not get fishing. Didn't get it.
Amazing.
No, didn't get it. So I always used to try and throw it in there just to throw a spanner in the works because they'd always stand there with a microphone in my face and go, didn't know how to come back.
Yeah. Fantastic. Absolutely love that. So 2006 Commonwealth Games, obviously one of the biggest. Gold medal.
The only gold medal. I mean, I've got loads of gold medals, but that's the only major one. And really, to be fair, it's the defining moment.
Look at them teeth.
See how long that hair is? Yeah. I was so close to not competing that I didn't even bother cutting my hair.
Well, there's a major story behind this one. I know there is. And go on, I want to hear it from you.
Where'd you start? Well, look, I mean, we mentioned earlier on that, most of these decathlons, you get 7, 8, 9 months of preparation. And because 4 years previous, I busted my hamstring.
When it was in Manchester, UK.
Yeah, exactly right.
That was going to be the big one.
That was they're all big, right? But that was the only time really. I mean, I was never going to make 2012, so that was the only time I was ever going to win a major medal or certainly compete in my own country in a major championship.
Yeah,
and so obviously pulling out of that, 4 years later, Commonwealth Games comes around every 4 years, so it's like an Olympic cycle, and it's another game. So there's an Olympic village, there's a Commonwealth Games village. So it's a massive. It's a massive event, millions of people involved. You know what I mean?
Obviously,
all in the one place. So I thought, right, I'm gonna take a bit longer. I remember physios and doctors and people saying to me all the way through my career, if you trained at a little bit less intensity, you wouldn't get hurt as much. But the problem is I genuinely wasn't the best on the planet. Right, I was probably 4th or 5th, maybe even 6th best on the planet if you took natural ability. So if I didn't train at 100% every single day, where do I come in every major championships?
Yeah,
4th, 5th, 6th. I don't have a shout of a medal because out of natural ability in my book, I was always going to be out of the medals. So for my lowest ever position to be 4th place, I think that was down to the fact that I had a bit of a bull in a china shop way of training. You know, I trained my body to either destruction or to demolition.
You went for it every time.
Oh mate, if I turned up on that line, everyone else in the world knew I meant business. I weren't there to make up numbers. You know, if I retired when I felt like I was a numbers man. Put it that way. Do you know what I mean? I weren't. That's not why I did it. So going into 2006 Commonwealth Games, I was adamant nothing was going to go wrong. So I put an extra, I can't remember how it was like 6 weeks or even 2 months onto my preparation. Just so if I ever had a little niggle or something, I weren't faced with that deadline sort of time restriction. Because for me, even 6 months out from a championships, if one training session went bad, then I had to make that up somewhere.
Yeah.
But there was no room because that training session led into that training session. There wasn't. You can't give more than 100%. Do you know what I mean? And every one of my sessions were 100%. So I thought, right, give myself an extra couple of months. Anyway, every single training session went perfect. Took my foot off the gas when I needed to. I mean, it was an absolute masterclass of self-discipline, which up until then I'd never had. Never in my entire life had. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you must have had a good team around you, Dean, doing that.
I did, but at some point, I think you have to do things for other people. And if I did it for myself, I just went bull in a china shop 100%. And I was fed up. Bearing in mind, up until that point in my career, I probably pulled out of 3 major championships. Not by choice, like something snap, pop, bang, whatever.
Injury.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like physiologically, your body don't work. So, and then you start to get to the point where you're really good friends with your team. They come to my wedding. Do you know what I mean? They're super cool people, and I don't want to let them down. So I'm thinking I've got to start being a bit more sensible. Plus, like I said, I was getting on a bit. I couldn't actually train at the point, or certainly at the intensity that I had back in 99, 2000, 2001. So I did everything absolutely perfect to bang on 3 weeks. So the day before, I was flying out to Melbourne 3 weeks before the Commonwealth Games. The day before Melbourne, I go up to Melbourne Park in Chelmsford, which is an indoor track, to pick up my pole vault poles. Yeah, I know. Yes, kind of. But I go up there because that's where I used to do my indoor pole vault. Pick up all my pole vault poles, so I used to store them there. And do my last pole vault session. Anyway, 2 jumps in, I put the bar up to 480, cleared it like that, straight over. Looked at Greg, my coach, and I'm like, and I never jumped 480. 480 is my PB. I never jumped PBs in training. Ever.
And you've just done 2 in a row.
No, I've jumped 470 first jump, 480 second jump. Didn't even touch the bar. I looked at Greg, I went, and I'm down scheduled to do 9 jumps, right? I looked at him and I went, 1 more? And he went, yeah. Because when it's good, it's good. Do you know what I mean? Halfway down the run, up hamstring goes.
No.
I'm like that, like flat on my face, right? I remember this weird guy come out with some of these like sort of like healing magnet balls and started rubbing them on my hamstring. I was like, get the fuck off me. Greg's like, he's only trying to help. I said, get him away from me now, boy. And I'm laying on my flat. I'm thinking, oh my God, like not as bad as what happened in 2002, but bad enough, right? So anyway, the whole team is out in Melbourne.
Did you know at this point what the injury was?
Yeah, straight
and
away.
What had happened?
Straight away, mate. If you get stabbed in the back of the leg, you know.
What are the initial consequences of that?
3 weeks out to 3 to 4 weeks out. So let me tell you the story. So from there, all the team had gone out, but I knew the team doctor and I knew the team physio at Chelsea. So I called the wife. Wife come to get me. Went straight down to Chelsea. Had a scan at Chelsea. Had an 11 centimetre gash basically in my left hamstring, my takeoff leg, and straight there and then when you read the textbooks, you're like, well, that's a serious grade 2. That's a month out. I'm like, well, I'm flying to Melbourne tomorrow, and I've got 3 weeks, right? 3 weeks to the day before I do the Commonwealth Games, right? Something needs to happen, right? And I'm talking to Dean at Chelsea and Brian English. So Dean Keneally and Brian English, they were at Chelsea at the time, and they're like, Dino's, that's like, I don't know what you want me to say. And when you've worked closely with people, do you know what I mean? They become sort of friends. You can tell in their face when they don't want to tell you some shit news. Do you know what I mean? Right? Anyway, so I'm like that. I'm thinking, fucking hell. So I've come out of Chelsea. Lisa's in tears. and we're driving home. I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and we get home. Nothing's really said, and we get home, and I've got all my bags packed. All I've got to do is put my pole vault spikes in the bag, zip it up, fly to Melbourne the next day. And sort of Lisa's like, "What are we going to do?" I said, "What do you mean, what are we going to do?" She goes, "What are we going to do?" I said, "We'll get them fucking spikes out of that bag, put them in that bag, zip it up, I'm going to Melbourne." She went, "What?" I said, "I ain't stopping now."
And you're limping about at this point.
Yeah. First 2-3 days with a grade 2 like that, it's just rest ice compression elevation, the standard sort of stuff. It's no surgery sort of thing. It's just, it's not a bad problem if you're.
Not 3 weeks away from a Commonwealth
If you're in a pub side and play football on a Sunday, you have a month out, get a bit fatter, come back, rest. It's simple as that. You know what I mean? But when you run, when you've got a time deadline like that, it's a serious, serious proposition. Anyway, so I don't know why I jumped on the plane, upgraded to business class. Back then, like athletes didn't get anything. You were sat in chicken coops right at the back. Anyway, so I upgraded myself to try and get some extra leg room because they said just don't cramp the hamstring up. Anyway, long story short, gets all right to Melbourne. Neil and me other doctor Bruce meet me at the airport, straight to the hospital, another scan, same thing, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what they said at Chelsea. And their face was exactly the same as the guys at Chelsea, both of them. And all these 4 guys have been to my wedding, do you know what I mean? So they're good friends of mine, like I said. And I went, look, just do me a favour, promise me this, give me your best for the next 3 weeks. I'll do the same, and then call it then. Don't call it now. All right, because I remember how painful and the shit that I went through 4 years before, and I thought to myself, like, I ain't going through that again.
That's on your mind, obviously, all the time.
And also, I'm thinking, how can that happen 2 times on the bounce? At the only competition I'm probably odds on to win. Well, I was odds on to win. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, so I didn't go to the warm-up track, didn't go to anything. There was a grass track behind the hotel, and 3 times a day I went out there and did some strides, so like just jogging sort of bits and bobs. And 4 times a day I saw the physio and the doctor, once in the middle of the night. Right?
Wow.
It was like an army regimented mission, mate. It was the most perfect sort of little team you could ever. My coach came up to me as soon as I got there. He said, "What do you need?" I said, "Just leave me alone. I don't need nothing." All right. The first time I went and done some rehab runs over the track, my 100 metres was 37 seconds. What? You can fucking walk that. Do you know what I mean? 37.
Unreal.
Not that I was that. I was super quick, but because of the pain and because of the injury, that's as fast as I could get it.
What did you think when that happened?
Well, I thought I've got to start somewhere, right? And
so you didn't think it were impossible at this point?
Yeah, I did. Every single day I thought it was impossible, but every single day I thought I'm not quitting until they tell me I can't do it. Right? I weren't going to make that call. So 37, 35, 32, 27. I'm not knocking. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. We're doing the same thing every single day. Running 100, walking back. Just trying to get quicker, Anyway, look, we're like 4 days out. And I've said, "Guys, you need to come down to this grass track with me." And they're like, "What's happening?" I said, "Just come down to the grass track."
So you've been there for 2.5 weeks at this point, doing the same grass track day after day after day.
Monotonous. Mate,
no other training. That was good, wasn't it? Nearly knocked my glass off. No other training, no other events.
Couldn't. The whole point of this entire 3 weeks over in Melbourne was to make sure I hit that start line. I suppose my feeling was I've put so much effort into this, and there was a good reason why I wanted it as well, because I was, we'll go back to that maybe at some point, but I was offered a significant job in 2005 and I turned that down to do the Commonwealth Games anyway. Do you know what I mean? So it was a big leap of faith for me, but it was the medal that I needed to justify my career.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I felt like I was good enough. Not that I was the best, but I felt like I was good enough to win a gold medal, and my time was close to up. So I thought, this is the last shot. Anyway, 4 days out, they've turned around and said to me, like, "What's up?" I said, "Come down to the track, 11.9. I'm like, fucking hell, 11.9's all right. Because I'm thinking I'm going to run 10.9. Do you know what I mean? So I ain't far off. Goes to a press conference later on that day. World press sat in front of me. I know, whatever, cameras, all this stuff. And I remember saying to everyone, I went, "There's absolutely no reason why I'm not going to win this Commonwealth Games. If I don't, I'll walk up to the man that does, shake his hand, I'll move on to the next." I'll never forget that, because I remember shitting myself as I said it. And I hadn't even been given the green light. Did another couple of sessions, put me spikes on. I just said to the boys, I said, "I'm taking it out of your hands. I'm going to do it." And they went, "Fine." Because turns out they didn't want to tell me anyway. They didn't want to make the call. They just give me everything that I needed, and then when I turned around and said to them the day before, I went, "This is a go. Like, we're going to do this."
Do you think they knew you could do it?
No. both of the guys now, well, God rest his soul, Neil actually died recently, so, but I know that these guys are that good that they fly around the world doing like delegations and talking to people about their experiences, and they used it as a case study where it shouldn't have ever happened. And I stood on the line in the Melbourne Commonwealth Games, and I remember we had points, right? So it's all about points. It's not who wins this event, who wins that event. It's the aggregate points over the 10 events, right? So basically, we worked out how much punishment the hamstring could take throughout the 10 events. So I had to run no quicker, not that I couldn't, I had to run no quicker than 11.2.
Because if you pushed it, you might injure it.
Yeah.
Got you.
If at first you want to win, the first thing you have to do is finish, right? And that was drummed into my own head all the way through that preparation. So gun goes in 100 metres, right? I have a flyer. Amazing. Probably the best first 20 metres I've ever had. In the lead. And then I went, oh, fuck the hamstring. Literally stood up, watched everyone run past me. And for a proud guy like me, that's hard.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, just got to let it go. Just got to let it go. And like I said, throughout the whole decathlon...
That's like against natural instinct.
Yeah, it is.
Really hard.
But there's certain events throughout that decathlon that I was okay, given the green light. So like I had to run like 11.2 in 100. I ran 11.18. I had to jump 7.20 in the long jump, which, is still far.
Yeah.
Jumped 11.28. First jump, like job done. But then the shot put comes. I'm thinking, right, shot put. Coaches turn around, giving me these really specific instructions. Smash it, grip it and rip it. Throw the best you've ever done. Lifetime best. Third round. No throw in the first round. Wow. Get this. No throw in the first round. No throw in the second round. PB in the third round. And do you know the funny thing is, I weren't even shitting a brick.
And how many goes do you get?
3.
So you'd only got one chance.
One chance. And do you know what? I walked into that circle, didn't even fucking blink an eyelid, mate. I didn't even cross my mind I was going to get a no throw. Actually, I sort of opposed the second no throw because that was a long one as well, and I didn't even feel my foot go over. But long story short, did it when I needed to. I needed to jump 205, which is above a door height anyway, but I needed to jump 205 in the high jump. Did that first attempt. Did it so easy. I looked up at my coach and I remember him going like that.
What, as in don't have another go?
Yeah, that's it. You're done.
Were you thinking I might just have
another go? I did 208. So I looked up at him. He went like that, and I went 208, please, judge. Walked round. I remember, and then I jumped 208. Did it nice and neat because I thought to myself, if I can get a couple of points in the bag, that's a no-brainer. And I jumped 205. So easy. I thought I've got to do this. So like I said, you have people behind you helping you to try and keep your body together and helping instruct you and all that stuff. But when you're on that track, mate, you're on your own, and the buck stops with you. I was happy to make that call. So jump 208, give myself an extra 50 points or whatever it was, right? Now I looked up at my coach, and he's like, instead of going like that, he's going like that. Like sort of, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm done. Then going into the 400, right? It's quite a laugh actually, because I remember saying to my coach afterwards, I went, I'm never going to be beaten by a girl, never. So I've gone out in the 400, and the time they've given me is 50 flat. Christina Huragu goes out just before me, runs 49.9. I'm like, fuck that. I ain't running 50 flat. So I run 49.4 or something. I was like, right, okay, manhood still intact, sort of thing. Hamstring still intact, and I'm definitely better than all the girls in the country too. But then the hurdles come. Anyway, long story short, hurdles went okay, discus went okay. And I really, to be fair, even though I had a really dodgy hamstring all the way through, and I felt it all the way through, I managed to maintain that level of intensity that was okay. When they give me the green light to go and smash something, Hulk smash.
Nailed it.
Yeah, but then when I had to hold back, I did. And then comes the pole vault, which is the event that I snapped it in, which really shouldn't ever be an issue. But I've walked out onto the pole vault warm-up, and everything's going well, and I'm 3 events from the end, right? If I'm not mistaken, I'm leading anyway, and I'm thinking, I got this. Just come on, 3 events, right? Got this in the bag. And there's a headwind. Now, the one thing with a pole vault is that you can't just run up like long jump and just bring your run up in, because as you lose speed, you don't compress the pole. Like the pole is effectively a 5 metre long, 220 pound fishing rod, right? It's like compressing a lead with a rod like that. You have to have a bit of speed. So there's a headwind, and I can't generate the speed to cover the ground to get in and bend the pole. And if you can't bend the pole, you can't pin yourself upside down and clear the bar. So I'm thinking to myself, right, now we're in a bit of a pickle. Because if I can't make run up, I can't make jump. If I can't make jump, I can't make points. If I can't make points,
we're out.
We're done, right? So I'm thinking, I'm sitting there, and I'm sort of getting a bit sort of cold, sweaty, because up until like you can only really like sort of jiggle around with the things that you can control. I can't control Mother Nature. Do you know what I mean? There's a headwind. It's just shit or bust.
Would it not the same for everybody?
Yeah, but everyone else can push a bit harder.
Right.
I can't. I've got to stay at this intensity. And I've tried pushing harder, and then you start feeling the tearing sensation in the leg, and you think, I'm right on it now. You know? So I'm like, and warm-up's quite a long time in pole vault because everyone's at various different levels. So I'm thinking, I've got to get out of here. Like, I start to have a little bit of a flap. First probably time I've ever had a flap in competition. You know, just deal with it there and then. But I thought, right, so I've gone, like, put my hand up, I need a wee. Walked all the way back to the change room, shut the cubicle door, sat down on the toilet and just like thinking, fucking hell, what's up? And previously, now I'm not, like I said, I'm not a faffer. I don't really believe in all that afterlife and stuff. Previously, we'd only just lost one of my granddads. And I remember, I didn't say it, but I remember thinking it, as real as I'm sitting here with you two, right? I remember thinking, Grandad, if he's up there, have a word. Fucking have a word. Like that. You know, just sort of like a passing comment. That's all it was. As like a passing comment.
As you're having a pee?
No, I didn't even pull my trousers down.
Wow, just went for a little moment.
Just a moment. That's all I want. I just need to get off the track. Do you know what I mean? And watching all these guys warm up, adjusting, I can't do that. You know, I'm not allowed. Anyway. So I'm walking back out to the track and I'm thinking, right, come on, gather your thoughts. Let's sort this out, right? And I kid you not, right? I ain't even shitting you. The flag, the windsock, goes from that. And as I'm walking across the field, does a 180 and starts doing that.
No.
Unreal.
Pick me pole up, make me run up, jump a season's best.
And it's your go?
Yeah. Jump a season's best, 470, right? So my PB's 480, so super competitive. Throw the jav, smash the 1,500 metres, win the Commonwealth Games.
What a story.
Like,
I've got to put that picture up again after that story.
Look at that.
And I was so convinced that I weren't going to... Like, who turns up to the Commonwealth Games with a bloody mop on their head like that? I was so convinced. I was so intent on getting it right that I didn't even think about cutting my hair. And I look back on that and all I can see is me frothy hair.
What a story, though.
And do you know what, right? It's not comparable, right? The relief... I mentioned it earlier on, right? The relief side of things when you win a medal is unbelievable. And my most defining, perfect moment after that competition, right? And I remember, so a guy called Brad McStravick was our team manager, right? And I had obviously the backup medical team, Neil and Bruce, and then I had my coach, Greg, and they all played a significant part. And I remember about 2.5 weeks, I'd only been in Melbourne a couple of days, and Brad had collared on that something was wrong. And he came up to me and he went, fucking hell, Dean, you put yourself into some positions, don't you? And I went, Brad, if it can be done, I'll do it. Now leave me alone. Right, Brad used to be a decathlete. He's a super lovely guy, but I didn't want fucking around. You know, weren't that sort of person. I weren't in that sort of mood. So I went, if it can be done, I'll do it. All right. And then 3 weeks later, I'd always done all the blood tests, drug tests, and all that, this, that, and the other. Right, get back to the Commonwealth Village about 2:00 in the morning. Neil, Bruce, Greg, and Brad are all waiting for me, right? And we go and sit outside the food court, which is shut, nothing to eat, nothing like that, completely drained. And we're all just sat there, totally quiet. And I nudged Brad like that, and I went, fucking told you, didn't I? and nothing needed to be said.
No.
What a moment.
Not like when I catch a big un. Like when you catch a big un, I just want to tell everyone. I want to ring me missus. I want to ring you. I want to fucking
whatever.
Get an Instagram story out there. Yeah. I didn't need anyone to know that was my moment, you know, and standing on top of that rostrum, even though it wasn't like, you know, the one that I wanted, that was the defiant, that was worth everything that I'd gone through leading up to that.
Were your family there, Dean, and everyone?
Yeah.
And what did it feel like at that moment when you're holding it up?
I was fighting it back, to be fair.
Neck?
I was fighting it back.
Yeah, that must have been special.
Yeah, it was.
That's got to be your whole career coming down to...
Look at the smile.
Funny thing is, it's a gurn, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
unreal.
unreal.
The funny thing is, it was the worst... it was exactly the points that I felt like I could do. It was exactly the points that we felt could win it, and it all fell into place. Like, my name was on that. You know when you turn up, you have a shit chuck and you catch a big un, your name's on that fish.
Yeah.
That had my name on it from day dot. You know what I mean?
Highlight of athletics career?
Probably because of, like I said, the justification of all the pain and all of the effort and stuff like that. And standing on top of the rostrum was well worth it, you know. And bearing in mind, like, what Denise said, like, 10, 15 years before. But highlight of the career would have to be, like, the World Championship medals and things like that. Because as an elite athlete, they are a greater achievement, you know.
The story behind
that's the moment.
Commonwealth.
That's the moment. Yeah, that's the moment.
After Manchester in 2002.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I was close to giving up. I was close to calling it a day after Manchester, you know, because I just thought, it's just not happening.
Nobody can take it away from you, though, mate. That's done now.
No, exactly. And then I came out with that line. That the wife and the £7 chub. And do you know what? I remember thinking about that line when I caught my £8 chub. I remember thinking about that line, thinking, shit, I wish I'd have caught an £8 chub. It would have sounded much better.
Should have caught him a bit earlier. What happened with your fishing at this point, Dean?
After 2006
Yeah.
or during?
Well, straight after Commonwealth Games, you get home. What you doing? Are you going fishing?
Yeah, I did go fishing. But do you know what? Like, post Commonwealth Games in 2006, I can't remember exactly what happened, but I remember having like the most perfect 3 months. You know, did mastermind and didn't come last, which is a right result when you're up against a newsreader, a wine critic, and then a doctor.
Where did you come?
Third.
That's all
But
right.
I was stung. When I see who I was up against, I was thinking I need a comedian or something. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
when you do something like that and you're as academic as me, although I chose wisely on my specialist subject, which was Back to the Future trilogy, and I knew everything and every single date. Like, I watched all them movies for an entire week, took all the notes. But going into that, I thought, right, I'm stone cold last, come out third, lovely.
Winner.
Did Total Wipeout, won that. That was amazing. And I can't remember exactly.
Was that the Total Wipeout record breaker?
Yeah.
So you've still got that record
do you know
now?
The funny thing is, right, them 4 red balls on Total Wipeout are possibly one of the most difficult challenges of all of that sort of little show sort of thing, right? And throughout my life, I've done a few things where I've looked at something. Not many. I haven't had many of these, but I've had a few things where I've looked at something. I thought, I got that. You know, so I did some Car of the Year show a little while ago, and I did some stunt driving with a guy called Russ Swift, and he taught us how to handbrake into a parking space, and I was like, I got that, and I had it. I was good. Taught us how to drive on 2 wheels. I thought, I got that. I had it. He taught us another thing, how to power slide into and around a roundabout, and I thought, I don't know about that. Didn't have it.
Have you ever done it? Have you ever done it on the road?
I did 2 wheels on the road once, but that was that weren't meant to be.
Never handbraked into a space in Aldi or anything like that.
To be fair, he did it in between cars. We did it in between cones. But I did it 2 foot bigger than the space. So 12 inches either side of the bumper, like a glove, in there. Do you know what I mean? So that was pretty cool. And then when I went to Argentina to do Wipeout and they walked us past the course, don't get a practice, just walked us past the course. He goes, right, when you fall off there, you get in there and you get up there. And when you fall off there, you get up, there's your ladder and stuff like that. And I looked at them 4 red balls. I thought, I got that. And when you watch that Wipeout, everyone falls off, don't they? Every single person stacks it. I thought, I got that. And I run straight across them.
Well, do you know what I've got? It's on TV.
Let's have a look. Look at him.
It's barely holding together as it is.
Look at him go.
Watch the hurdle technique. Look at that.
Whoa.
Watch the punch in the knackers now. Ready?
Oh.
He's still going. Even the mud can't stop Dean.
When I say I got these red balls, I didn't float across them. I didn't
look,
fall
look,
in
he's
them.
going
back on his
It's
words
all
now.
right. Bang, bang.
No, surely not. I don't believe it.
Go on, son.
Oh!
No one's this quick. This is unbelievably fast. Yes, yes.
Oh, no.
Close the course record stands at
Dosh.
58 seconds. Surely Dean can't beat that now.
Mate, I was hanging now.
I don't know though.
You're out of breath then.
Absolutely
yeah,
hanging.
you say you look like that. That's a labouring to get up them stairs, isn't it?
I've never seen this before.
You know, look like
He's done it.
56 seconds.
it's a record, isn't it?
I'm okay.
Right, do you know what the funniest thing about that is, right? When I got the phone call to do that gig, right? I've done some really cool gigs over my time, right? But when I got the phone call to do that gig, my wife went all quiet. And I went, don't you want me to go? And she went, no, it ain't that. But out of all the things you've done, I really wanted to do that one. So when I was out there, I had a word with the directors and they got her on. She had to go for the audition and everything, right? And the funny thing is, right, before she left to fly to Argentina, about a month after I'd come back, she said, what's the key? Because I'd done really well. Like, I won 10 grand for charity, lovely jubbly. But she goes, what's the key? I said, speed. because at the end of the day, if you fall off, it's still down to time, and most people will fall off. So she went into all that first event and thinking speed. She come back black and blue. She got hit with everything. She's only 5'1". She got smashed to smithereens.
Poor old Lisa.
She come home, honestly, she come home after about a week away. She stripped down, like, pulled her trousers down. She went, look at this. And the inside of her thighs were black and blue. I was like, shit, babe, what happened? She went, I went fast. Like, not quick enough then. Bless her.
That's, what else is on the winning streak then, straight after?
Well, no, them two stand out. You know, Mastermind's quite cool because you never think you're ever going to do that. Do you know what I mean? I've done MasterChef and a few other bits and bobs. I remember after 2006, I went on Question of Sport, and I was always useless at Question of Sport. And I don't know, like I said, I was on a roll. I remember literally buzzing for every single answer, every mystery guess. Like I'm normally the person when they ask me an athletics question, they have to cut. People go for a wee because I'm thinking. I'm like, hold on.
Give me a minute.
Yeah, I got this. Don't worry, I got this sort of thing. But everything rolled in. And like I said, I can't remember exactly where I went and what I was fishing for. But I caught big fish as well. Like, everything was absolutely perfect.
So you still went fishing a lot straight after it?
Mate, all the way up to even through the preparation for the Commonwealth Games. Like I said, track and field was everything to me whilst I was on track. But then when I walked off track, unless I had to have some physio or something else, right, then it was a bit of golf.
Do you think the fishing helped you? Was it a
Yeah,
rest? Was it a take your mind away from...
100% was a take your mind away. But at the same token, if something was going wrong with... at that time, track and field was my bread and butter. So if something was going wrong in track and field, if I wasn't performing in one event, then I never warranted in my own mind going fishing. Even now, when fishing's sort of 50% of what I do for a living, I still have to earn my time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Even though I possibly could do 5 days a week, I don't, because I don't want to. I don't want it to be that way, you know? So at that time, even though I always had a day or two off a week, depends. I usually had 1 day off a week, 1 week, and then 2 days off the other week. I still, if everything was going fine, I'd get up early, go fishing, love it. If something was going bad, then my mind weren't on the fishing quite as much.
Yeah,
do you know
getting
what I
your
mean?
gear together and going.
It's just prioritising, mate, innit?
Yeah.
That's all it was, you know? Like, if your bread and butter's track and field, let's get your head down into the track and field. But fishing was still a massive part of my life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah, I think at that time, actually, I think it was that time when I was doing a weekly piece for Angling Time. So I was kind of forced to go out a little bit as well, which was kind of nice. It was, like you said, a nice distraction sometimes.
Perfect. And what happened next in track and field, Dean? What was the next thing on the agenda?
Well, the next thing on the agenda really was trying to rewrite the 2 fourth places, because at that point I'd still thought that I was probably good enough to win an Olympic medal. So Beijing was round the corner in 2008. I did everything I possibly could to get to Beijing. I had another elbow surgery because I smashed that in Melbourne again. Slipped a few discs, did a few other things wrong. Won the qualifier to get to Beijing, but in doing so, knackered my body in a way in which I soon come to the conclusion that I thought to myself, as much as psychologically I still had it, and as much as physically I believed I had it, I lost the belief in the fact that I could probably stay injury-free long enough to get to where I wanted to be. And actually, I didn't even consult my coach, my parents, Lisa, any of my friends. I didn't even speak to anyone about it. I didn't even think about it. It was not even halfway through. It was halfway through the 1,500 metres, not even halfway through the decathlon. It was halfway through this very last 1,500 metres, whilst winning the qualifier for the Beijing Olympics, when I realised that I'm done. It was like a little light bulb moment, a sad light bulb moment. Like I was almost running and sort of
What made
choked.
you think that? What went through your mind at the very point where you thought, I'm not doing this?
Well, I'd basically a torn groin, and it looked like I had 4 nads. So that kind of didn't help. And when you're in the middle of the competition, right, and you look at your physio and your doctor, and you've got a couple of niggles, and you look at them and you go, right, what can we do here, boys, to help me pain free to get through the next event? And there's a look of puzzleness on their face.
Oh, mate.
You know, you get to the point where you think, no, that's enough. Like if you're sort of baffling the best medical minds that you know, and they can't keep you on the straight and narrow with regard to healthy, and every single medical checkup you have is green light, go, next session something pops or bangs or something, and you just think there's no rhyme or reason to it. And halfway through the 1,500 metres with like 4 gonads because I'd torn a groin or 2 and stuff, and I thought to myself, no, I'm done. Didn't plan for it, didn't prepare it, came past the line, kissed me vest, because I had the British vest on, kissed me vest, and that was it.
How did you feel?
I choked. And it hurt, to be fair, for a few years, because when I retired, I had no plans. I'm very much an all or nothing sort of guy. I have nothing. If I start making plans for other things because something don't go wrong, the thing I want to go right tends not to go right anyway because I'm not focused on it.
Yeah, I'll suffer from it.
Yeah, I'm very much I'm a guy. I'm not a multitasker. So what I tend to do is go balls deep in everything that I want to do, and then everything else on the sidelines doesn't get a look in until it needs to. Do you know what I mean? So I retired with not an awful lot to me name and not an awful lot in the plans, really. I remember a couple of days afterwards, I remember once I'd announced the retirement doing a BBC radio interview, and they said, what's next in the line for Dean Macey, all this, that and the other, and I choked up. I was sitting in my office indoors, I choked up and I hung up the phone. And
on the interview, halfway through the interview?
Just thinking, they'll think it's a cut line or something, do you know what I mean? I choked up because I had no answer. And it was sort of a realisation that I was sort of a bit stuck, really.
Was it difficult and dark? Or?
Yeah, but it was difficult and dark because I still, in the back of my mind and sort of in my heart, felt like I had more to give. But there was a fraction of belief gone. Yeah. And at that level, you can't have that. You know, I knew I was done. I knew I was never going to come back. I never have tried to come back. I've trained to the point where sort of 2 years after I retired, I was probably as fit, if not fitter, conditioning-wise. And then I'd sort of tickle into a bit of the speed stuff and some of the plyometric stuff, some of the power stuff, and then something could pop. Didn't matter because I was retired, you know what I mean? But that was the realisation that it was the right call at the right time. But some of the right decisions in your life are not going to be the easy ones.
No, you're not going to take that kind of thing after such a long, hard, intense career with the way that you work at athletics.
You have to have the ultimate belief in everything. Every single, there's no 99.9%. It has to be 100% everywhere. And and like I said, I just lost that belief there and then. Competing at that level to qualify, qualifying for an Olympics is different to being in the Olympics. It's 500-600 points difference, more than that. So I'm thinking, if I'm getting at this level, I can't do the next level. So I retired, and after that interview, I remember thinking, Jesus. And I was getting gigs. Don't get me wrong. I weren't like sat there, nothing to do sort of thing. I was getting the odd bit of sort of gigs from commentary work and radio work, Al Jazeera.
Yeah, people interested in what you've been doing. Obviously.
Yeah, exactly. I did a little bit I did a bobsleigh documentary for BBC, which led into 3 years of commentary for bobsleigh for Eurosport. Instantly, after 10 days of watching Cool Runnings, I was a bobsleigh expert.
I think we all were,
I commentated on the Vancouver Winter Olympics. As Amy Williams come through the line, she had my ugly mug. Amy Williams is Olympic champion. And then out of the blue, I had a phone call from a guy called Dan Scargill who basically said, "Do you want to do any coaching?" And I went, "No." Hung up the phone. I was
like hanging up at this point.
Right, it caught me on a bad day. I'm not a nasty person. Do you know what I mean? I was like, "No, not interested, Dan. Thank you very much. See you, mate." Sort of thing. And he rang me back and persevered, and promised me the world. Didn't necessarily deliver, but bottom line is we've been working together since 2012.
Right.
2010. And it's been a relationship that I've absolutely loved, and it's developed my passion for coaching. A lot of people can catch big fish. A lot of people can match fish. Not at your level, but a lot of people can do it. Not a lot of people can turn up to a school or fly around the world and deliver masterclasses for 100 delegates and give them 20 years of experience over a 2-day or a 1-day course, And like I said earlier on, I had some really passionate, enthusiastic teachers when I was at school, but they were crap coaches.
Yeah.
Most teachers can teach rugby, football, netball, things like that because it's kind of a generic sport. But track and field, if you have a sprints coach, well, they don't necessarily know how to teach you how to throw. And the throws coach don't necessarily know how to teach you how to jump. And so my passion now is trying to match their enthusiasm with my knowledge. So if they've got that enthusiasm to get them to want to do better for themselves, their family and everyone else, as well as the technical knowledge to make a difference, then at the grassroots level, I like to think that every one teacher and coach that I get my hands on goes away and sees 500, 1,000 kids. That gives them a much better grounding. Not necessarily I want them all to come into athletics, but the base of every great athlete is being an all-round athlete. And it goes back to what Denise said to me, like being the best all-round.
Beginning.
If you can be the best all-round athlete on the planet, you don't have to be a decathlete, but you can be anything you want.
Yeah.
And so with my coaching and with my academies, that's my That's where my passion
it
lies.
sounds
That's,
to me
that's
like
my niche, I guess, because there ain't a lot of people that can do that, and it's a really nice thing to be able to give back.
Yeah, and the amount of energy that you and time and effort you had to spend in that peak of training for a very long time, it sounds to me when I hear the passion in your voice about what you're doing for your coaching that a lot of that has shifted towards that now.
Do you know what? At the start of the academies, I say to all the kids and the parents, I say I wouldn't ask you to do something I'm not prepared to do myself, and it's brilliant because every summer I have 1,000 training partners. I do circuits with them all. I do 400s with them. I hurdle with them. And it takes me back to when I do everything just as good as I used to, just not as fast, slow, and don't go as high or as far. But you know, it's absolutely makes me feel young, even though it's physically so demanding and it gets harder year on year. It makes me feel like I used to back then, and I know that I'm making a massive difference to them kids, to whatever they want to go and do in the future.
And
I didn't have that as a kid.
Yeah,
you know, so I know how much that would have helped me.
Yeah. That must feel lovely to give that back with the experience, with the medals, with that knowledge.
But it's like the Guru Academy.
Yeah.
You know, you're giving back. You're giving them something that you necessarily didn't have. You know, you're a lot younger than me, so you might have had a few role models and stuff. But back in the days when I started fishing, I didn't have that. And you know what it feels like when you walk away from the Guru Academy and you teach someone for the very first time how to fish pellet wag. You know, and they start, like, the end of the day, they're smashing it, and you just think to yourself,
sat back looking at them, patting them on the back.
It's as if you're doing it yourself, isn't it?
Of course it is.
Yeah,
of course it is.
And that's the other half of what I do, sort of led on from the track and field. But it is only half because the fishing has become bigger and bigger and bigger in my life, obviously.
So 2008, 2009, you've retired, you've quickly gone down the route of coaching and ploughed a lot of that athletics energy into that side of things. Where was the other half of your life, the fishing half? What came into that at that point?
Was I a guru then?
You tell me.
Oh, I can't tell.
They were around that
time. We
time.
need to get Rooney in.
2008, 2009.
I've been an orange boy for so long. I can't remember how long it's been. But yeah, so like I suppose after on course, sort of petered around, had a few, just like as a consultant sort of angler, you know, did a few bits for the magazines, a few features and bits and bobs. I can't remember exactly how the guru or when the guru thing come about, but I remember I was with JRC, and Ali was like a dog on heat. He literally turned up at a couple of fisheries. He'd rung me. He'd go, "Where are you?" I'm like, "I'm fishing." Where
Did you know Ali at this point?
No, he just rung me out of the blue and he went, "You didn't tell me you was available." I said, "Well, I ain't available."
We're talking about Ali Hamidi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I went, "I ain't available." I'm with JRC. He went, "Yeah, you're available." You know? And he went, "Come over to us. We want you to do the Guru show." And I was like, I'm not really sure, sort of thing. Anyway, I had a couple of days out, and it sort of led from there. Do you know what I mean? That's where I met Rooney. Like Rooney was on the Rooney was a rep at the time.
Yeah, he was. He was an angler for Guru, I think, as well, wasn't he? And he did an odd fishing Guru show at the time. Yeah,
the first time we ever met was down at Anglers Paradise. I didn't even know who he was or whatever. All I knew is I was going to do a show with Steve Ringer. We was going to do a show with Steve and Rooney, and then I was going to do a show on my own. No one really knew what the hell was happening. You know what I mean? Yeah. You had 1 day per show, so 3 days, 3 shows. It was quite an intense shoot, to be fair. Then we all turned up. I went, "Oh, mate, how you doing?" And we just hit it off like a house on fire. And so our sort of little journey sort of done that together, really.
Amazing.
Yeah, it has been cool. It's sometimes in life you make right decisions, right? And putting all my eggs in one basket, forgetting my education, not that it was ever going to be that good, but forgetting my education and just going absolutely everything I had into track and field was the right decision.
Yeah.
And coming to Guru and taking up the Guru shows and getting involved with a young company was the right decision.
And obviously that led to the Big Fish Off, Fishing Allstars, Fishing Guru show that we're still doing now.
Yep. I love the dynamic that we've all got.
Was that all that you did at the time? You'd got the coaching, you'd got the fishing. Was the commentary side of things never an interest for you?
It was an interest. It kind of was an interest. I mean, I loved the fact that it was all glamorous, flying around the world and commentating on all these spectacular athletes. But that was so close to me retiring that I kind of felt like I could have been down there. And I think to be a commentator, you have to be interested in other people. I ain't.
You want to do it yourself?
The big Kazakh, the little Italian. Do you know what I mean? Like and Plus, I'm not a great reader. I was dyslexic as a kid. Signed my first ever contract without being able to read a single word of it. Do you know what I mean? So like when they're giving me these sheets of all of these long jumpers from all over the world, and I'm looking at names, I'm thinking, that's just a bundle of letters. No way. And they're going, just write it down phonetically. I'm like, what does that mean? Do you know what I mean? So I love the commentary side of things, but it's a lot of pressure being live on air in front of 8 or 10 million people and not being able to say shit, fuck or bugger, which I generally, if you know me personally, my granddad John, God rest his soul, used to be known as Mr. F, because every other word was the F-bomb. Yeah. And my family, I'm sort of the new Mr. F. Not that I want to be, but it just seems to be like my vocabulary doesn't go as far as not being able to say fuck every other word. But it's, I don't know where I haven't done, well, I've done it live on telly, actually. I remember commentating for one of the, it was Eurosport for sure. I can't remember. It was a World Champs. Might have been 2010 World Champs. And where, like when you're doing Eurosport, you just sat in a little box in Feltham, East London or West London, right? So you don't necessarily go to the actual event. You just sit in a box and you sort of pretend you're there and you talk about the atmosphere and all that stuff. But really, it's just a little fart box. It stinks of poo. That's all it does, right? And so we're sitting there and like the championships last like 7-9 days or something like that, right? And like 5 days in, and we're having a blast. Me and the presenter. I'm like I'm like the pundit sort of thing, right? And we've got the odd guest coming in. And when the cameras are off, we're just having a laugh and a joke. And when the cameras are on, we're having a laugh and a joke and talking a bit of shop. He asked me a question, and I've gone, fuck yeah, as an answer live on telly.
What happened?
Well, letters and emails and, we're ever so sorry for the language and all that stuff like that. But funnily enough, I never got asked back for any Eurosport athletics gigs. And but the gigs that I got asked back after that was the bobsleigh. And when I walked in about a year later to do the bobsleigh colour commentary, the director or the producer turned around and said to me, please don't say fuck again.
So they remembered.
Yeah, they remembered.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's the end of commentating. It's not happening. We're sticking fishing and coaching.
I did commentary for probably 3 years. And I did an awful lot of Channel 4 gigs, and I was basically like a freelance presenter. So I had a few consultancy roles with a few adventure companies and things like that. And I'd do the shows, I'd do the presenting, and along with the presenting, I would present and run it. So I'd give like a hands-on experience, like the hair sort of thing for all these sort of adventure races and stuff. But where the fish-off was looming and where Gurus was taking over a little bit more time, and with it all being very seasonal. We all love to fish in the winter. But the only times we've ever really tried to film in the winter, when we've got external crew, it's gone super wrong with regard to like steamed up lenses or just the weather.
Weather, you can't film when it's throwing it down.
Yeah, and if you're trying to do, especially if you're trying to do running water, mate, and you go down to the River Wye, 10 foot up. Like if we're doing a pleasure session, sweet, get the 8-ounce leads out. But if we're trying to show off the gripper feeders, it's not the one, is it? So you are seasonal, and the thing is, fishing season, filming season, and athletics commentary season all came in the same 3-4 months. And it's the same 3-4 months that my coaching and my academies were there as well. And so I'm sitting there going, right, I stress a little bit, to the point where I actually went down to the quacks at one point, got some sleeping tablets, because I remember going out to Korea and not sleeping for 3 days because of the time change and buzzing after the commentary had finished, and then not being out of sleep, worrying about the day after and all that stuff. So I'm sort of stressing a little bit over the commentary, yet I love my fishing and filming. I love my academies. Like, them two things I can do in my sleep. Like, I love that, I love the people I work with. I love the difference I'm making. Whereas that, I'm thinking, yeah, it's good. And financially, it was much better, but it didn't sit well with me.
I like the fact you've gone with what you enjoy.
I always do. You only get one shot, mate.
Yeah.
Eminem.
You only get one shot.
Yeah. Do not waste it. I was going to run the lyrics then. But
When did Big Fish Off come about? Because I remember seeing the advert on ITV, and I thought, I've got to watch that. I can remember fishing, telly. That was the first, as a younger grown-up sort of thing that I'd thought, I want to watch that fishing on TV.
Well, I mean, it was already pretty much commissioned before I even knew I was involved.
Right.
If truth be told, I'd heard rumours and spoke to Nick and Al and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, the first time we actually filmed was down at Anglers Paradise. Mate, when I turn around and say to you, we did it it eventually became a 5-day shoot, right? So Everyone turned up on the Sunday. We did the intro on the Monday, right? I know that sounds stupid. The intro's like 3 minutes long or something.
Yeah.
Right? Plus interviews and all that stuff, right? But logistically, it takes a lot more than just turning up, sticking the camera on, and then everyone performing. Do you know what I mean?
Bearing in mind the Big Fish Off format is...
3 challenges, 2 captains, 2 celebs.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And yourself and Ali Hamidi,
Yeah.
2 captains.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it eventually turned out, so we turned up on the Sunday, had a roast dinner, Kurt's an absolute legend, cooks us a treat, and then Monday we did the opener, Tuesday we did the first challenge, Wednesday second, Thursday third, and then rolled over into the Friday if we did an overnighter, right? So we had a 5-day shoot, lovely, like nothing stressful, because really the matches were only 4 hours long, 2 hours, hour break, 2 hours. But the first couple of times we did it, we had Tamer Hassan and Mickey Norcross. Mate, we had 3 days, and we did 1 extra challenge, and the intro took forever. I mean, it was hitting the ground running, really, and trying to work it out on the shoot.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a hassle while you was doing it. And remember I said about my wife said I was a much better husband when I retired because I was a bit of a dickhead when I was competing. She didn't say that, but that's what she meant.
Yeah.
Right? When you get competitive, or when you get 2 competitive guests on there, right? I really enjoyed the company of 99.9% of every single one of the guests.
Who were your favourites?
That's hard to answer.
Oh.
Johnny Nelson was the easiest to work with because Nick would used to turn around and say, right, guys, we need you to wind up Team Hamidi, right? So then I'd go to my guest and whisper in their ear and sort of get them to do that. So I would sort of direct my guest, and Al would direct his guest, and then Nick would direct the lot. Do you know what I mean? With Johnny, Nick would come into our swim and he'd go, and Johnny would go, got it! And he'd like moonwalk off and just do exactly what, like, you didn't even have to tell him. He was on it all the time, the whole week. So he was super, super easy to work with, and a joy as well. Plus we did a bit of body sparring one day.
Right.
And yeah, that was wicked because I love my boxing, and so to do a bit of pads and some body sparring with a former world champion legend, do you know what I mean? That was wicked. But there were so many good guests, from Johnny, who was super brilliant, to Ollie Locke from The Only Way is Chelsea. Is that what you call it? Made in Chelsea.
Yeah.
Right. Who, is a typical camp. Don't want dirt under your fingernails. Smells lovely. Looks great. Sort of type of guy.
Smells lovely.
He does smell lovely. He did smell lovely. That you would never see on the bank, or you'd never think you'd see on the bank. Who I was lucky enough to partner with. He was an absolute blast to film with. He really was super. That was one of my favourite shows. Him and Dappy worked an absolute treat, like chalk and cheese. And some of the challenges were super, super tight. But when we got 2 really competitive people on the show, the competitive side of everyone came out. And so the crew that was filming Al necessarily didn't really have that much dialogue throughout the week. And the sort of crew that was filming me didn't have that much dialogue with Al. And
There were almost 2 teams.
No, not really. Like, crew spoke to each other and stuff, but there was a definite sort of, thickness of atmosphere between the 2, Team Hamidi, Team Macey sort of thing, right? Because the competitors, like the celebs, really wanted to win. And I think that's one of the reasons why I really loved the girl show. So Anna Kelly, Sally Gunnell, and the 2 models, right?
I reckon I'd have liked that one as well, Toby.
No, but I like that because the girls didn't care, So Jessica Hayes and Casey Batchelor did 2 models. That was a bit, But the 2 groups of girls that we had on, they did not care. They were there for a laugh. I don't think even they was there for that bit of money. They were just there to do something a bit different.
Yeah.
And because they didn't care, the crew didn't care, and we had a much nicer atmosphere. Do you know what I mean? And like I said, if you're going to be a really super competitive person, you're generally not a friendly guy, and you're generally not a guy that you'd want to go out for a beer with. You're a guy you respect and you admire and look up to, but you're not that, he's a mate. Yeah, lovely. Sort of.
Yeah.
That's not the sort of person that, when people in the pub go, yeah, I'm super competitive, there's a price to pay for being that person, and it ain't a great person, You've seen the Michael Johnson documentary?
No,
Has
I
anyone
haven't seen it.
that?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's on Netflix. Mega.
Get it on list, Tobe.
Yeah, he's
we're
brilliant.
getting a few
but
now.
He's the most
Yeah.
hated person in his team. He dragged that team, right, from the gutters to the best team on the planet, but no one really hangs out with him. Do you know what I mean? So he's admired and respected, but none of them really liked him.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's...
it's like, have you seen The Last Dance with MJ?
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, it is that?
Did I say Michael Johnson?
Yeah.
Oh, I meant Michael Jordan.
Oh, yeah, no, I have seen. Yeah, sorry, I'm with you now. No, I have seen that. Yeah.
I hadn't seen
Oh,
it.
mate, no, I've got no interest in basketball.
Yeah.
And it was before my time.
Yeah.
Watched it, 1 episode, and that was it. I did the lot.
Yeah.
It was.
But you know what I'm saying, though,
yeah,
don't you?
He was like, people just didn't buy into it. They didn't like as a person.
Yeah.
But he was like, when it was game time, he brought everybody up 2 or 3 more levels.
Yeah.
And he did it for years. It was unreal.
Yeah.
I'll have to get on it.
Oh,
boys.
honestly,
I'll get on it.
I'm not a basketball
He's the team
player.
he's the guy in the team that you would fight to be on his side.
Yeah,
But he's not the guy you go out for a beer with, right?
Right.
And I'd like to think now I'm the guy you go out for a beer with, whereas back then I weren't interested.
But you
You
must.
tell me your problems, I don't care.
Yeah.
You do you know what I mean? That sort of guy,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So it's
You must have fished with some cool people on Big Fish Off. Is there anyone, like, it can be a wild one, this, but anyone on the planet who you would like to go for a day's fishing with that you haven't already?
the only to be fair, not arrogant styley. The only person I've ever wanted to go fishing with, and my wife said, right, we're going to go out to Thailand and we're going to do it. I'm going to buy you it for your 40th birthday, which is a few years back now. Was John Wilson.
Wow.
The legend. You know, I fish with some really cool people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nigel Botherway, we always make sure we get out and we share birthdays. So we always have a
Oh,
birthday.
I've been told I've got to tell you off about this, by the way. He
Yeah, but
said you let him down this year.
He said the river was fishing shit.
He said you let him down.
Oh, no, you've upset Nigel.
Spoke to Nigel on the way
It's
down.
a long way to go to catch nothing. Do you know what I mean? He normally takes me to to a really spanking stretch of the River Test. But when he texted me and he went, to be fair, I did have something come up. But when he texted me, he said it ain't fishing well. I thought to myself, it's a long way to go for a day's fishing not to catch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But Nigel's an absolute legend. Nigel's super cool because he taught me, you know, at certain parts of my fishing career, shall we say, right? I started to take it a bit seriously. You know, that sort of a little bit of competitive nature comes out. Not with anyone else. I don't care if you catch more or bigger than me, or Tobe or anyone else. But if I stuff it up a tree, or I don't perform very well technically, I have the ump with myself.
You ruin a chance or something
exactly.
like that.
Yeah, I often, I know this is going to sound super weird, I often walk into a swim on small rivers where I'm hunting for super low stock big fish, and I think, right, the divine line between success and failure here is a badly timed cast, or making 2 casts, or doing anything that a normal angler would think is okay. That's done. You've wrecked it. So I regularly walk into a swim, as weird as it, you know, like Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Right, when he goes, I just start doing that. I walk into a swim and I go, right, be the best you can be, Macy.
You got to be though.
No, but do you say that to yourself?
If there's a 15
'Cause I
pound
do, and that's
barbel to be
weird.
caught, yeah.
I don't wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and go, you're the man. I'm not that bad. But when I walk into a swim, I do it on my one-to-ones. I say to people, like, every chuck you make, think to yourself, be the best you can be. It's not just a chuck. You know, that chuck could have a 30-pounder on the end or a 15-pound barbel on the end. You never know when your time's going to be. That's why I said, like, the relief of winning a medal and the elation of catching a big un, you can never tell when that big un's going to arrive. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to fish every single cast, every single day, like that's going to be the day. Do you know what I mean?
So did you get your 40th birthday present with John Wilson?
No, I
then?
didn't. And that's the only person I've ever... I sat down with him at the old Go Fishing show many moons ago, and it was a total fluke. And if it weren't for this total fluke of planets aligning sort of timing, we was both in the VIP room, so we was both on stands, and it just so happened that we both had a late lunch, and we were the only 2 in the VIP room, and I said, like, excuse me, John, do you mind if I join you? And we sat opposite each other like this, and he told me some, like my jaw-dropping stories. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was absolutely everything I wanted him to be.
Which one sticks out in your mind?
The lot, everything. Because I asked him about, like, the original Go Fishings when he was over on the Carvery and fishing for the Marcia and all that stuff, and he just went on to telling me out how difficult it was to get fishing on TV and how he laid. Not he didn't tell me, but like. It was super important how what he did laid the groundwork for what we do now.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? But him being there as one of the original people in certain countries catching those monstrous 100-pounders that only now we could dream of because they've been eaten or killed or whatever, you know, I just sat there like mesmerised. And it's possibly, and bearing in mind, right, when I did Sports Personality in 1999, right, I'll get this out. Or one best newcomer. But I sat between Evander Holyfield and Lawrence Dallaglio, right? And so I've met some very super influential, famous sportsmen in my time. Sitting opposite John was probably the only time I've been kind of starstruck.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I used to watch John Wilson. I used to watch the same video again and again
Yeah,
and
me too.
again and again. And I'd probably switch onto them now and I'd be watching them all night.
They're all on YouTube
Perch
now, mate.
was sticking
I
in my
watch.
mind.
I watch him on YouTube
Yeah.
now. I do. I watch him like literally freelining a big bunch of maggots on the Dorset Stour for Barbel on £6 line. I'm like, £6 line? But obviously they was a lot smaller back then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But mate, it's how I want fishing to be forever.
Yes.
And it's how I remember fishing as a kid. And to be fair, as much as I've been around the world, and I love my travelling, right? But as much as I've been around the world and I've caught more big fish and more variety of big fish than I could ever have dreamed of. Like, never, ever could have dreamed that I'd have caught as many big barbel, as many big carp, and as many big chub or whatever, right? Fishing will never get better than it was when I was 13, 14, 15 and trying to read The Art of Fishing, and Tommy Pickering telling you, sitting on his little plastic dial seat box, how to waggle a fish for carp in amongst the rushes. And back then carp were like that. Do you know?
Tiny little things.
Yeah, do you know? Like, that was the most perfect time for me to be fishing.
I think it's because it's all ahead of you then, though, isn't it?
Yeah, of course,
you
yeah.
can potentially go and do that.
Yeah,
When-
I felt like now when I go to a venue now, I know what I'm going to do beforehand. I know what I'm targeting beforehand. I know where I want to be beforehand. Back then, I had no clue what I was going to do. I remember the first session I had at Danbury Lakes. I bought a bag of Expo, right, and there was a small breeze blowing into my face, and I took a handful of dry dust and I threw it, and it fucking blew back in my face. I was like, how'd you get that out there? So I had to go and ask an angler down the bow. I was like, excuse me, mate, I bought this bag of Expo. I can't get it out to me float.
I used to
And
he
mixed
love
it all up
Expo.
for me. I was like, I just took it out and like threw this dust in the air.
It's a blast from past.
Yeah,
that
mate,
is.
that is like that's the most perfect innocent time in my angling life, possibly in your life, you know.
I can remember going to the tackle shop, right, and there used to be the smell always is what reminds me of it.
Yeah.
I get it every now and again in this office. Sometimes if there's some bait kicking about, it smells like an old tackle shop used to.
Yeah.
And I walked into the ground bait bit, and every time I walked in, I'd be with my dad or my granddad, there'd be a bag of Expo, and on the old Van der Nine ground bait bags, it used to say on it, roach, carp, perch, tench, bream, and they were all pretty similar.
Yeah.
But Expo said on it, catfish. And I was like, Dad, we need to get a bag of that because we might catch a catfish. And he's like, Matt, we're going on the Chesterfield Canal. You're not going to catch a catfish out of that. I said, we might do if we use Expo.
Yeah, Expo says you can.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to literally go into the tackle shop and just look at the most variety of species. I didn't even know what I was targeting, but that's what I loved about it. And I suppose that's kind of what I like about a bit of fluff chucking now, because I'm crap at fly fishing. You know, like Rooney and I did a little bit of fluff chucking for one of the. It was season 1 of Allstars.
First Allstars,
I've seen
yeah.
that video.
At Willinghurst on the
Yeah.
surface, mate. It was It was like the two Ronnies.
That's the
Like,
angriest
in
I've
England.
ever seen Rooney ever.
Yeah.
He gets furious.
He
doesn't
gets furious. He's like,
Yeah.
Angry, really.
Dino, you stand on my line again. I'm like, sorry, mate. I thought,
Genuinely telling his voice.
thought it was
can't you?
my line. we must
Brilliant.
have been there 6 hours, right, and had about 3 hours of fishing because the rest of the time we was undoing knots and stuff. But I like that innocence that I really don't know what I'm doing, you know. And when you get a good cast out, it's kind of rare, you know. And back then it was all like that.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why, like, I suppose when I go to more commercial style fisheries, I tend not to poke my oar into many people that are not catching, because I understand that other people, if I'm catching 20 in a day and they're catching 2, they're having just as good a day as I am, because that's what they want to do.
They
Do you know
want to
what I mean?
go
They're
and
just-
catch 2 in a day.
They're just happy to be out and just do it. Do you know what I mean? It's all relative.
Yeah, of course it is. When you talk about people you've been fishing with, something that I always remember from more recently is a picture of you and Lisa with a big carp.
Yeah. Oh, I try to get my family into it. But
Yes.
most of them are a little bit like, nah, we're busy. But every now and again, Lisa gives in.
I see that picture, and God's honest truth, I thought I'd love to do that with my missus. I'd love to take my missus fishing something
Yeah.
like that and catch a big special fish.
Oh, you're
like
talking
that.
about the big one?
The big
Yeah,
one.
don't take her. Don't take her. Don't take her. Don't
Why?
take her.
Go on,
Work-
tell us the story.
Well, like day 2 in, rod goes off. She's brought me around. So we're at this lake in France, and the reason I took her is because you couldn't get the lake without
Just
this
you
house.
and your missus?
No, so it was me and my missus and a mate and his missus, right?
Right.
But so the girls had the house and we just bivvied up on the lake. So, you know, I was getting bites pretty much every sort of 6 hours, you know, and so like 1-2 o'clock in the morning, I'd give her a ring. Not allowed to sack the fish, so I'd say, babe, can you come around, take a photograph of the fish and that? And she'd, like 2 days in, she's come around with a flask of coffee and some digestives. It was a perfect trip, right? Day 3 or something, rod goes off and I go, go on, have that one. And every fish, like I had 13 fish, not one fish under £50, average weight of £59, right? Anyway, first fish she winds in is £66. And then the last morning we're there, right? I have a 59.5 mirror, a 66.12 common, and then the last rod remaining that ain't done a bite all week, right? Ain't done a bite all week, just kept that spot going all week. That was it, because I was catching on the other ones and they were all massive, right? I said, babe, I'm going for a poo. And she went, what do you want to do for the rod? I said, leave it. Ain't done a bite all week. I said, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Run into the house, done my business. I'm literally walking back round the lake. It's only a small lake, right? She legs it to the rod and lifts in. I'm thinking...
You see her doing it?
What? Yeah, I saw her doing it. So I sprinted round, and as I sprinted round and got into the swim, she's tried to hand me the rod, and she's going, it's going round the back of the eye. I said, no, babe, you know what to do? Clamp down on it and give it the butt, right? And she's, bless her, like I said, she's standing up there and I'm kneeling down. Right?
Look at her.
She's literally, right, I'm on 3.5 pound carp rods, proper rods, right? And she's literally just heave-hoeing. But bless her first fish was in Thailand at Gillam's, 150 pound Mekong. So she's dealt with fish before, right? She's heave-hoed it. She tried to give me the rod back again. No, I said, go on, babe, you have it. Go on, I'm happy. I've just had a 59 and a 66. 70 fucking £6 pops yeah, the biggest fish in the lake, heifer, and it's took me 3 years since then to catch another 70 pounder.
Look at the size of that. Is that bigger than your PB then?
Well, that's our PB.
You can't say that. She caught it.
Yeah, fucking caught it. She brought me my coffee. That's it. No, yeah, that is the biggest fish I've ever had in the bottom of mine there.
And that's
£76 on the button. My wife wound it in.
What a moment!
Yeah.
What a moment.
My mate said to me as well, he went, let her lift it. I'm like, how the hell is my wife going to lift that? Yeah, you know what I mean? She's literally like knee high to a grasshopper. I was like, babe, I'm coming in there, babe. I'm coming in. There's no way.
I can remember it all on social media, and I can remember thinking I would love to take our last fishing like that. In fact, my first ever carp fishing experience properly behind buzzers was with you.
No.
Well,
you put your buzzers on back to front.
Oh, Toad.
Oh, God, no, I need to hear about this.
He had his Delkims facing his bivvy.
I thought they were taking the mick.
Sorry, no, he had his Delkims facing the water.
Yes, you can see.
Fishing Allstars, Matt's first ever fishing Allstars, and they're like, we get to do a little bit of carp fishing, a little bit of match fishing, bit of sea fishing, whatever. I thought, I'm right looking forward to some proper carp fishing. Get a bivvy and everything. And,
watching you and Rooney put a bivvy up is like watching me sort out my new seat box that's downstairs.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to be like, what the flip is that?
I just sleep under stars now. I don't need one of them bivvies. Take too long to
You
set
sleep
up.
well as well, don't you?
I do as well.
Do you know it took me years to learn how to sleep under the stars and learn how to sleep in the bivvy without actually like just staring at my bobbins like that? Do you know the first time I ever did a night session, many years ago, I sat there on a deck chair at Gloucester Park off Tench Point. Now this is my school days, you know, so 6 weeks holidays, and I've got me and me mate who's just round the bend, and I'm sitting there, and the torch is literally running out of light as we're going up to like 11, 12 o'clock, and after that I'm putting the golf umbrella up and just getting a bit of kit, and the monkey climber starts doing this, and then it slams up to the butt of the rod, and I'm like, still watching it. Like, I know exactly what's happening.
Shall I strike?
I didn't know, because it was the first time it had ever happened to me. Do you know what I mean? It was only when the rod and them old metal bank sticks that sort of just like a wire. Do you know what I mean? With a little bit of rubber on the end. Everything just started bowing and bending. I was like, oh, no. £11, 11 ounce carp. Lovely jubbly. That's so innocent.
Yeah.
Anyway. And then when I remember taking Lisa tench fishing once. She had an 8.12, right? And she went to my mate next door, old Les, who used to teach me how to fish, whose PB was £8 on the button. And she went, Les, I've just had an 8.12. Is that big? He went, about time you went home, innit, Lisa? She's so innocent when she goes fishing, but I think she actually, in the back of her mind, knows when she's caught a big one and she can wind you up.
Of course she does. She ain't daft.
Yeah.
She ain't daft. But I put my buzzers wrong way around and everything, me too.
Do you know what, though? When you said about fishing with good anglers and stuff, though, right? You underestimate it because you act dumb, but you're mustard, mate. Like, we all know you're mustard match angler, right? But you are a mustard angler. And it's kind of weird. I have to pinch myself sometimes because when we go filming Allstars, right, we're all pals and we're all fishing. And you ask me more questions than I ask you, but you are one of the best anglers on the planet at what you do. And I think to myself, why am I telling him how to catch roach? He's the best natural angler we've got in the company. Do you know what I mean?
But I think that All-Stars relationship, you've got Rooney, super duper keen, does a bit of everything now. I'm obviously a match angler. You have got big fish, a carp, belt and braces, background in all that side. Yeah. I learn an absolute ton when we go on them shoots.
Do you know, when we went to Italy, right? So we did All Stars season 3. We went to Italy and we didn't catch. So we had a great show, but we didn't catch catfish on the River Po at the end. And I remember coming into the offices afterwards with Rooney, and I said to him, mate, that sit's really uncomfortable with me. I feel like we've got a really good show, but we need to finish it off. And I actually had a trip booked to Parco later on that year, 900 quid or whatever it was. And
Which is in Italy, another
yeah,
carp
exactly.
lake.
Yeah, I said, look, I'm going to, literally, like the River Po and Parco are like neighbours, right? So I'm like, mate, I've cancelled that. I've sold that trip. I've got 900 quid in my pocket. If I have to, I'll pay to go back out there. I'm going to catch a catfish, just find some money so we can get a camera crew. Do you know what I mean? That's like on some of the All-Star shoots, is that like we're pulling the purse strings that much, right? And I remember coming to the office and we're like having a chat going, can we get it done? Can we get it done? The funny thing with Roon, right, we actually, well, as you know, it's been out, right? We had a manic sort of time trying to even get on the river because the river was, when we went out there first time, it was so low and so clear the fish didn't feed. Second time we went out there, it was 6 metres up. Bridges were coming down.
Weren't you camping on an island that were just disappearing?
We was camping on an island, which when we first went out there was like a mountain, like it was a hill. And the first 2 camps we went to, you couldn't even get on. Do you know what I mean? They were underwater. You know, like what we were looking at as bushes were the tops of trees, sort of things, right? Anyway, so we've gone back out there, right, and we've had this manic 1 hour. So my rod's gone off, right, 160 pounder or whatever. Dealt with it. Come on, big man. You know, I can do it. Literally, we're standing on the bank. Roons and I have literally high-fived and gone, mate, I can't believe it. Like, we've done it.
Job done, returned after a fail.
Right? Yeah, and we're tied off to the far bank with like 50-pound line. So when the rod goes off, right, we're fishing, like the 50-pound line is like a snap, like a weak link, right? So it's like a shotgun going off when the cat takes the livey, right, and then bolts off downstream and snaps the mono, right? So it's like pulling for a break, but with super-duper bungee rope, right?
Yeah.
As we turned our back to the rods, his rods are all hooped over like this, right? Because they're tied to the far bank, right? Shotgun's gone off. Rooney's jumping around like a cat in the box, like literally spinning like someone shot us, right? And we're all going, that's the rod. That's the other rod. So he's run down, grabbed hold of this rod like a pro. We've all jumped in the boat. Bless him, old Nick. So Gary's on the bank with a torch trying to light us all up, right? We're 800 metres downstream in 2 minutes, sort of things, right? Nick's got the camera, so I'm trying to hold Nick. And Rooney's on his knees, getting dragged around the front of this boat. I'm like, he's going, this is unbelievable. I can't do anything with it. I'm like, Roon, use your legs. Your legs are the most powerful muscles in your body. Use your legs. He said, I can't, Macey. They've gone. He's just looking at me. He's gone, legs ain't working. Legs ain't working. And that is priceless.
And that was the middle of the night as well,
yeah, middle of the night, yeah. But to see someone of his experience, because he's mustard as well, isn't he? Do you know what I mean?
He's done it all. He's done it all.
Yes, absolutely, exactly. But that style of fishing, watching him do it for the first time reminds me of when I did it for the first time. Do you know what I mean? And and it's brilliant.
I think we've got a picture of them both, Tobe, with them 2 fish. Look at them.
We started like literally.
Awesome.
I think the first one went off at like 2 o'clock. Second one went off at like 3 o'clock, and so we strung them up for a couple of hours. Got some photographs.
They're absolute animals.
Yeah.
Look at them, aren't they?
What a way to, what a fish to catch on a TV show.
But
it
it justified the effort that we put in as well.
To go back out and do it again
with a skeleton crew, and Nick, bless him, did a real good fist of the actual filming, because it would have been challenging for a professional cameraman, you know. I mean, Nick does work on the camera as well as edit and as well as direct as well, but it makes it all worthwhile.
While we're on the topic of filming and stuff going right or stuff going wrong when you're filming, Dean, what is it like on a TV shoot for something like Allstars, which I've been on them myself, so I know it's a serious shoot. How easy is the fishing side of it on them shows? What's the pressure like on you to catch fish?
Well, I mean, sometimes, look, it's fishing, right? So sometimes you hit the ground running and it's a piece of cake. Like Bramblemere, we all thought was going to be an absolute nightmare. There was like 11 fish caught for 5 days through 10 anglers, so 30 rods, and they hadn't really done too much. And we had 6 hours on there. We had the turnover.
We had an
day.
afternoon.
We had the turnover day, and for us to catch 5 fish, do you know what I mean? No one could see that coming. You know, it was meant to be. But I suppose one of the biggest criticisms I get is like jumping around like a cat, like a jack in the box. You know what I mean? And I think the only way I can justify that is that I probably don't do that in my own fishing as much. But then in my own fishing, I haven't got 5 hours to try and catch a 20-pounder. From somewhere when I've got 5 grand's worth of equipment behind me that's all worth nothing if you don't deliver.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And so a 15-pounder on a shoot when the odds are against you is like catching a 60-pounder in your own fishing. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. It's all relative.
It's very difficult to justify But if you're under that amount of pressure and then a few go in the back of the net, you can't help it.
You're buzzing.
Don't get me wrong. I watch it back sometimes. I think, oh, fucking hell, Dino.
You jumped up and down a few too many
Dino,
times.
chill out. Come on, chill out. And I think I'm getting a little bit old for that now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But also, like season 3 of Fishing Allstars was just off the back of Big Fish Off. And so that was that sort of style of, like super excited and all that stuff,
Yeah,
And I think fishing nowadays, like if you watch TV fishing nowadays, people are they're liking a little bit more of the sort of serious stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
What were your favourite part of All Stars? Give me your favourite UK part, because obviously
Mate, I really enjoy. I mean, like the one we did was season 3, but I really enjoyed season 1, which was the surface fishing for the carp.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I love, and one thing I think people will relate to, is when we take people out of their comfort zone. Like you put me in a match, I'm like a fish out of water. I kind of know what I'm doing. It's fishing at the end of the day, and take you to a commercial carp fishery and say, right, catch a 20-pounder. You don't do it all the time, but still, you're that skilled and that refined in your angling that you can change. You can turn your hand to it. But my favourite part of all the shows is when we take ourselves out of our comfort zone. Like, you remember the wrasse fishing?
That was incredible.
Like we literally had no clue. Gary, bless him, we did an all-nighter.
Gary
the night before,
Newman,
didn't we?
we're talking
Yeah,
about.
so Gary was the only one that
Specimen.
had. Gary was the only one that had any experience and any knowledge of what to do on the wrasse fishing, where to be at what part of the tide, and he was back at the hotel having a kip.
Yeah,
so
we got knackered.
So I'm literally like the day before, I had a 5-minute conversation with him, like just briefly, thinking like sort of we was going to get a little bit more of the lowdown, and so we go down there, and we got like a 2-hour tide on a venue that we've never seen before at Chelsea Bill.
That was awesome, by the way.
Mega, mate. Oh, absolutely mega, yeah. And the funny thing about that part, right, I remember, was that Rooney and I hit the ground running, and we kept catching tons of sort of 5-6 inch sort of wrasse, and they were all super cool, brilliant colours, different patterns and everything. And I remember you on several occasions going, can't get a bite. I
couldn't catch one.
And the one bite you got was the biggest one of the lot.
Yeah, it were awesome. That was one of the best fish I've ever caught, that one.
Matt, I had serious fish envy when I see that.
I remember you saying.
That's a big wrasse. That's a big wrasse.
We're a huge
there
thing.
it is.
That's him. Look at that.
Mega, man.
That were awesome.
If it weren't for lockdown, I'd have done that this summer again.
What, gone and had a go yourself, pleasure?
100%.
I've never seen one of them. That's a mad-looking fish.
Chub, they're incredible fish.
But do you know what? It's not just the fish that's incredible. It's the way you catch them. Like, properly, under your rod. Like, not underarming. Under your rod tip. Just a little link-ledgered lead with a whatever mustard hook
long
or whatever.
Long shanky
thing.
Yeah.
You can tell I do a lot of sea fishing, can't you? Right? Half a logworm. You know, went wrong, didn't we? We started sticking old ones on. Half a logworm. Jiggle it down there, and all of a sudden it just goes.
And even the little tiny ones, sort of 5-6 inches, bang your rod tip.
2.25 pound marble rod, right? And it's bending. Even the little ones are bending to the spigot.
When I upped to that big one, I remember you saying to me, I was going, it's an eel, and you were like, I don't know if it is. And as it's come up, if you remember that, I wish we had it to put up.
I remember
it
like it was yesterday, mate.
When it come up, you went, it's a wrasse, and we both started jumping on the rocks before it were even in the net.
Mate,
awesome.
It is cool to film that, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Because we get to just go fishing.
Yeah.
You know, there isn't like the Fishinggurus is quite cool, but I'm not a super technical person. I mean, we mentioned it earlier on. I'm not a faffer. I'm a ligger. Is that right?
Yes, that's the technical
term. So when you turn around and say to me, explain to the public why you're using that, I just want to go because it works. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm using it because it works.
Yeah.
Not that hole's there because of this, and this is that, and this, you know, and I'm using heavy enough gear that I'll land the biggest fish I'm ever likely to hook. Do you know what I mean? That's it. Job done. Like, bit of a bull in a china shoppy sort of thing.
But it has caught you some special fish, and one of the little sequences of your fishing that I remember well is I only remember it because I just joined Guru, and I started looking at everyone within and what they were doing. And I think I added you on Facebook. Thought I better add him. He's really cool and famous.
Everyone's got to have a ginge on their Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. And it was the time.
Yeah,
it was the time you caught some ridiculously big barbel.
I had a good winter.
Yeah.
Do you know what? The winter actually, I had 2 good winters on the bounce. So before we talk about the barbel, could I talk about the chub? Because it rolls on.
And I'll let you talk about the chub.
It rolls off of my tongue.
What's your favourite fish?
Chub and barbel, but like I've had an obsession with chub since I was a kid. right? Because of like when I got dropped off at the Blackwater and I used to chase them like an absolute idiot, and I never used to be able to catch them. And now to be able to, and obviously my skill set has developed. You know, I'm a lot more refined in my ability to catch chub and my knowledge and what I need to do at certain swims and stuff like that. But chub have got bigger, you know, so that's one of the reasons why I've caught some big ones. But there's only 2 fish on the entire planet that I've ever set my stall out to catch, right? And they've been 100-pound Siamese carp, which I had before even Gillam's, right, was a thing.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, I was fishing Gillam's in 07 when the 100-pounders were £25. Do you know what I mean? 07, so I caught them at £25, then at 50, then at 70, then at 90. And then the last time I went, I had quite a few of £100. You know what I mean? So to tick that box is super, because when I was a kid, I remember seeing a 100-pound Siamese carp in a paper, right? And I didn't know what it was at the time. I was at school, and the only school project I ever did, right, was a fishing project. And me and my mate Darren Stacey did 2 fishing projects, and we helped each other out. And I said, "There's a 100-pound carp in this world," and he was like, "Get out of here!" And we might have even ended up having a fight over it. Do you know what I mean? Me and Darren, we were good friends, and we had like 2 or 3 fights each. But I remember doing this project, and I saw this Siamese carp, and I thought, even as a kid, I thought, I desperately want to catch a 100-pound Siamese carp, you know. And so now I've caught 23 of them. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
But it's much more doable now. But when I caught my very first one, quite a few years back, you know, they were super rare then, even for Gillam's. And the other fish that I wanted to target, obviously, was first a 7-pound chub. But once I'd caught a couple of 7-pound chub and I was on the right venue,
which is a stupidly big fish,
massive,
by the way.
99.9% of people in the world won't have ever seen one. Let alone
I've never seen one.
No, but I thought to myself, I missed out on a couple of opportunities through not naivety, but just through not sort of wanting to be part of the circus, you know, so Adam's Meal and bits and bobs like that. But I was on the right venue at the right time, and there was a couple of 8-pounders popping up. And I thought to myself, and I remember saying it on Tight Lines years ago to Keith. He goes, "Right, what's happening through the winter for Dino?" And I said, "I want to catch an 8-pound chub," right? And I've wanted to catch an 8-pound chub for a couple of years. And he went, like, "You don't want much, do you?" I said, "No, it's like saying I want to snog the Queen, innit? You know what I mean? Like, it's just not doable, you know? Like, it's like they're so rare." And I never knew whether I was going to do it, but it was a target weight that I put on myself that was like a bit of a weight on my shoulders. Bearing in mind, I knew they was in there, and I was catching quite a few fish. I thought it was a numbers game and it was a time game, but the time was me catching them before they died rather than me catching them before anyone else. Do you know what I mean? And after 7 years of being on this venue and over 56s and 7 sevens...
That's a joke record.
No, this is a joke. Right, this is a joke. And I still I can't believe it when I say it, right? 3 days before Christmas, in 2 3-hour sessions consecutive, right? On the first one, I had a 6.14, right? And I rung up my mate Dave and I said, "Dave, I've got a 6.14. Can you come?" He lives 5 minutes from the river. I said, "Can you come and photograph it?" I said, "It's a big fish." He went, "Yeah, I'm in the bath. 5 minutes." Right? I went, "Yeah, lovely." Put it in the net. Dog walker comes past with a camera like this. And I thought, "Oh, you're the man I need." So I said, could you take a picture of this? Anyway, so he's done the pictures of the 6.14 for me. Dave's turned up and he's gone, "Where's the fish?" I said, "Oh, matey boys took the pictures for me." I said, "Yeah, there's a coffee in that flask." I said, "Make yourself one. We'll have a catch-up." 20 minutes later, rod's gone out and I'm fishing upstream and across, right? And it's gone like that. You know, the classic. Bang. Yeah, and I'm fishing a 2.5-ounce gripper to hold onto the far side, but super shallow water. And it's a swim that I'd always done well in, but it's a swim that I put a little bit of bait in before. Not that I'm a big baiter on rivers, but I walked past that swim and just saw a couple of fish ghost over this spot.
And how were you fishing from? What baits? Obviously, you're ledgering.
Hybrid. I was using 10mm hybrid, and that was it, 10 millers.
So just a dumbbell hook bait?
Yeah, up until that point, I'd caught a lot of chub. As I said, like, you know what I mean? A lot of 6s and a lot of 7s. But I'd been doing a lot of maggot fishing, worm fishing, cheese bait fishing, and as much as those baits are classic chub baits and brilliant, and lots of big fish get caught on them, I hadn't caught the big uns on it. So this year I thought to myself, I'm changing and I'm going to boilie fish for them. So I didn't mess around. 10-pound line, 10-pound fluoro hook link, size 10 NWG, super tight hair to the point where I actually had to sort of split the boilie a little bit to pull it on. So it was almost like side hooked but hair rigged sort of thing, right? And like I said, micro leg clip, my standard sort of stuff, but flicking it upstream. You can't fish for these fish during the daylight because they just don't come out. You know, catch one, buggered it. Anyway, I've had the 6.14. Tip slam round, come back, right? And by the time I've got it in the margins, ready to land it, right? Dave slid down the bank to net it, and he's gone, "Mate, what's your PB?" I was like, 7.9.
wow.
I've gone, fucking hell, Dave, you need to sort that out. So I've gave him the scales, and I said, 7.15 is fine. And he went, what do you mean? I said, don't give me £8 if it ain't, because I've gave a few people like 3.15 and a half for £4 per sort of thing, right? If it ain't £8, it ain't £8. He said, it ain't £8. I went, fine. He went, it's 8.1. I went, fucking hell.
Yeah,
right,
wow,
mate,
look
it was
at
an
the size
absolute
of
creature.
it.
Do you know what, right? And that night,
That's a joke of a fish.
That's
joke,
massive.
absolute joke, right? The other thing is, right, I'd probably an hour before kick-off time that night, and I just wandered up and down the bank like an absolute fairy. Couldn't believe it. I was ringing Nige, I was ringing everyone, right? Anyway, long story short, I got home, I told Lisa, I said, babe, you don't realise. She goes, yeah, but it's £8. I said, no, but you don't realise. It's a chub, right? And so on the carpet in the living room, I've drawn, so it's 24 inches long, right? And it was like that deep, right? So I've tried to draw this shape of a fish on the carpet in the living room, right? And the next morning, I've walked into the living room, totally forgot about it, just thinking, oh, I need my coffee, like that, you know.
Yeah.
And I've seen this like drawing, this outline of a chub in the living room, right? And I've instantly gone, fucking hell, I caught a chub that big last night. It's like,
Wow.
And I remember ringing my old mate Vince, right? And he said, you've got to go back. I went, that's done, mate.
£8 chub completed
Done.
it.
Yeah, he said, no, you've got to go back. I said, why? He said, there might be more. I said, there ain't more. He went, you've got to go back. Anyway, I weren't going to go back, to be fair. Gear was all still in the van and stuff. I weren't going to go back.
This is the next day.
Next day. And I've sort of, as I've hoovered over this, my wife hates it when I draw pictures in the carpet. You know, we've got the big rug stuff. So
Yeah.
when you draw pictures, it's a nightmare to get it out.
It like changes colour.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I'm hoovering this chub out sort of thing, right? And I'm thinking, there might be more. So I've gone back the next night, right? And I've done exactly the same. I fished from 5 o'clock till 8 o'clock. Right, and I've had a 6.9, a 6.11, a 6.14, a 7.2 and a 7.4 the night after.
What a ridiculous amount of fish. And size of fish.
That's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely
why
ridiculous.
do you think
and that was the monkey off my back when I put 7 years of work in to try and catch those chub. Yeah. Right, and now I've not targeted a big chub since. I just go chub fishing because I love catching chub and I love the style and I love float fishing through them on various different rivers, and I don't care if they're £4 or £5 because I've had my queen. Or my king, or whatever. And that's the greatest fish I've ever caught, unless I catch a bigger one, because of the campaign.
How many chub do you think there are left in the UK like that now? Or do you think there are
Depends
any?
who you talk to, mate. I mean, some anglers think it's like the Trent's riddled with them, but it ain't.
No.
They're old fish, mate. I couldn't put a number on it. It'd be impossible to put a number on it. Mate, that's the greatest achievement. Never asked a single question, did everything myself. And I thought to myself along the way, I was like, do you know, if I don't catch it, that's fine, because I'm half catching a lot of big uns along the way. But to catch it like that, and actually to publicly say that's what I want to do, and it's the only fish, aside from that carp, like the 100-pound Siamese carp, it's the only fish I've ever targeted, up to that point anyway, that I thought to myself, like, that's a fish where you could easily never catch.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you're fishing a still water and that fish is alive, you stay on that still water enough, maybe not the Burfield Common, but you're likely to trip it up at some point. But something like that is, I think, different gravy. And the year after, I still had the buzz for that sort of venue, but I thought to myself, then Barbel needs some attention. And that's when you joined Guru.
And that's when the Barbel story came about.
Well, that's when I made a leap of faith then as well. So I made a leap of faith one year to not fish classic chub tactics for the chub and fish more boilie. I weren't putting boilie in. The only reason I fed boilie on that trip was because I'd walked past that swim a couple of times, see a few fish ghost over the top of the spot, which I thought were £5. Turns out they weren't. Yeah, I took old Les up there, didn't I, after Christmas? He caught a brace of fours. I went, how'd you catch a brace of fours out of there?
Got some live bait.
Oh dear, I felt so sorry for him. But the first time I took him up there, right, I said, don't cast until dark, right? And it's not an awkward cast. It's an easy cast once you've had a bit of practice, sort of thing, right? And you know me, I'm a bit weird. I do practice in the back garden, buckets and all that stuff. I'm going to do long range chucking. I've already done it over the field. I'm not green, and if I'm going,
we regularly see it on your Instagram, right, boys? I'm going to go and have a practice at 200-metre casts.
Yeah,
and
exactly. And if I'm going to do some proper river fishing, and I need to chuck it under a bush, I'm going to be mustard before. I don't make my mistakes on the bank. Put it that way, right? Bless him, old Les don't do that, does he? He's a dry old sod and he won't take it from me, right? And he won't let me cast his rod for him. Good on him. So I said to him, right, bless him. This is the first time I went, Les, like, don't feed them. They were there. Don't cast until after dark, right? So it's sort of like this awkward little, if you can't underarm, it's an awkward distance. Anyway, I've gone down to him. I said, right, perfect time. Get it in. I've heard him cast. I ain't heard it splosh. So I thought, maybe it's because I'm up the bank, sort of thing, right? Maybe it's because I'm up the bank. Well, I haven't heard him cast. I've seen him cast with the head torch, right? Gone down about 20 minutes later, and I'm thinking, he's got to be on for it now, right? I've gone, tips up in the air. Any liners? Nothing. And because you're fishing upstream to a shallow spot, and it's your rod tips out, like you get loads of liners, you know what I mean? Like your tips bounce, it's super exciting. You know? It's like your maggot fishing, getting the feeder knocks, but it's super exciting. But there's no, when you've got 2.5 ounce, 3 ounce gripper holding bottom, right? When they have it, you know, there's no mistake in it.
It's a proper bite.
Yeah, exactly. Even though you're upstreaming. He's gone, no, nothing. I thought, I don't really want to put my head torch on, but I'm thinking something's a bit queerier. So I shone my head torch on his tip and his line's fucking straight up the bush. I'm like, Jesus, Les. Anyway, so I've got him to underarm it, and later on that night he's had a brace of fours. I'm like, how did you catch a brace of fours from there? I still wind him up to it there, like now. But so the year after, I thought to myself, right, I've got to give these barbel a bit of attention because they'd got a bit bigger.
What were your biggest barbel at this point?
15.8 was my biggest.
Which is
barbel.
still a very big fish.
Nah, massive. Look, I weren't fishing for a PB, right? I was fishing for 14-pounders. I'm always fishing for 14-pounders.
Yeah.
You know, I think a 10, 11, a 12, and a 13 are big fish. 14-pounder target. Do you know what I mean? Like this winter, I've had a couple of 14-pounders this winter, and I'm done. If I never catch another big barbel until next season, that's sweet. That's great.
You got your fix.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what I mean? That, like every single one of them that goes in the back of my net, I'm buzzing like no carp on the planet could ever give you. Do you know what I mean? Because they're so rare, and you like I said earlier on, you can never tell when it's going to happen. And on some of the small rivers, it's such hit and hold. Can't give them an inch because there's a snag there and a snag there and a snag. Don't fish in the snags, but you know where they want to go when you've hooked them. Do you know what I mean?
I've never done it. I'd love to have a go at it.
I've got to take you, mate. I've got to take you. So anyway, so I've took a leap of faith the year before, and this time there's an old mate of mine called Pete who every time I catch a barbel on this river, and it's maybe 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Like I said, I've had my fair share of big uns on there. He's leaving post-it notes on my windscreen, and I've never photographed a single figure barbel for him. So I'm like, fuck, like Pete, this is getting out of hand. And he keeps telling me, he's gone, told you, Dino, 3-inch lump of meat, 1 ounce lead. I'm like, I am not fishing a 4-ounce lump of meat with a 1 ounce lead. Not happening. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, ain't working. But his theory is that in the winter, the fish want to feed in particular areas. Like in the summer, my bait fishing works because I can bait them out into little runs and I can see them and I can spot fish for them. But in the winter, they don't move. They don't move for bait because they don't want it, you know. They want to have an opportunist feed every now and again. And so you can never really tell. Do your own work through the summer, depressions, all that stuff. But you can never really tell where the bait naturally settles. So he buries a size 2 in the biggest lump of meat you've ever seen.
Size 2?
Mate, his size 2 looks like a size 20.
Wow.
Like, honestly, this meat's huge. I don't fish meat as big as
How many
him.
cubes of meat out of a tin?
Like 2?
That's
like, honestly, mate,
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, right? I don't go quite that big, but anyway, right? So he's doing this and he's flicking it out, and he's like, it don't matter if it lands in weed, silt, whatever. I mean, I've watched these barbel in the summer. Everyone thinks barbel love to feed on gravel. And that's perfect because your rig lay's beautiful. But I've seen barbel come upstream, back up on themselves, face the wrong way, and then root around in the muddiest, shittiest, horrible silt in the reeds and in the roots of the trees to get whatever they're after. You know, them fish will feed wherever they want to feed. Do you know what I mean? And so his theory is, whatever it's on, the hook's buried, which means it's presented, and they will smell that lump of meat and they will hunt it out and find it. And when I take photographs for him, I'm always photographing these these chunks.
Great big barbel.
So one night I'm fishing, I've gone over there, it's perfect meat fishing, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like 3 foot up chocolate, and I know where the fish generally are, you know, in that sort of section anyway. So I've underarmed this lump out, 1 ounce lead and a 3 ounce lump of meat sort of thing, right? And it's gone out like this, spinning in the air like a fucking helicopter. I'm shaking my head as I'm underarming it into the river, right? I'm like, Christ.
What am I doing? Casting
How far
this?
have you fallen? Yeah, but I'm also thinking, fire with fire, give it a go. I'm fishing 2 rods, right? That one I flicked sort of just out in front of me and just, I didn't even have a clue where it landed, but I knew sort of it was underneath my feet. You know, no barbel at this in this river at that in them conditions are going to be anywhere but in the edge anyway. Dave, who photographed and waved me 8-1 for me, he's down, he's on the phone, and all of a sudden the tip sort of does this sort of weed bite. It ain't a bite. It ain't like a 4 foot. Well, it's a 4 foot twitch if you leave it long enough, but it ain't like a weed. It ain't like a bolt rig.
An aggressive,
rig,
shaky barbel.
No, it ain't. No, well, mate, there ain't no shaky bites on these rivers when you're fishing directly downstream to snags. It's before you can touch your rod, it's past the butt. Like, it's past the spigot.
Yes.
Done. Job done. You know, it's hang on for dear life. Rod is at full compression before you're even on your feet, sort of thing, right? It's not like on the Trent where you're paying out a bow of line. This is different gravy. It's the most electric style of barbel fishing there ever is. The Trent fishing's brilliant on its own right, but there is no comparison to this style of fishing. Anyway, so I'm an hour in or something like that, and I've had like this weedy sort of bite, but it's kept going, right? Anyway, I've kind of half thinking it's weed. So I've wound down, give it a little chunk, like giving it a little. This is the only time I actually strike for barbel to get the hook out of the meat, right, sort of thing. 14.
Get away.
My next 4 fish after that are all over 14 pounds to 16.2.
Wow.
5 on the bounce over 14 just because I changed method. Fishing the same swims, fishing the same thing. And I'll tell you what, I had a few of them weedy bites that never really developed, and I'm convinced it was smaller fish, like sort of almost trying to get this massive bait in their mouths, but they couldn't. Pete never catches small fish.
Pete the meat.
He's all or nothing. He blanks or he catches a big one. That's it.
Wow.
He lobs it out, drinks a coffee. And that's how scientific fishing genuinely is.
And the brace of fish you caught, what we were talking about when I first joined Guru.
Yeah, well, I had a 15.5 and a 16.2 night after each other, which don't happen all that often. Do you know what I mean? Let's face it. And 800 metres apart. Do you know what? The planets aligned for that as well, if I'm absolutely honest. Like, I fished well. You know, when I walk into a swim, I go, be the best you can be. Both nights, I was the best I could be. But, like, I was going to go and fish one swim on the Sunday evening, but there was a load of punters around, and I thought, I can't be arsed with that. You know, they would have left you alone.
When you say a load of punters, a load of anglers?
No, punters. No, I just walk in parks and stuff like that. Dog walkers and all that stuff. You know, I just thought, I can't be arsed. You know what I mean? So I went and fished another area.
What time of year is this, Dean?
January or February. Middle of winter, right? But mild, you know. As long as you're fishing and the temperature's coming up, you're sweet. And then the day after... so I went and fished that, and I had the 15.5. The night after, right, I went back and I thought, I'll fish that swim I was gonna fish yesterday, right? Which was good because someone was actually in this swim. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I ended up catching the 16.2, which is a PB.
So you were forced into each of the swims.
But if I'd have done it the other way around, I probably would have caught one of them, but there was someone in the next swim, so I wouldn't have actually braced it, if that makes sense.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So like I said, like, you have to be a bit lucky.
There it is.
Which one's that? Is that the 16?
That's the 16.2.
Again, it's a joke of a fish,
That
isn't it?
fish was on the missing list for 2 years, and I believe it's only been caught once since, and that was 3 years ago.
Do you think that fish is still alive?
Yeah, he got caught this year.
Wow. What, £16 still?
£17.
Never.
No.
That's why I'm back. That's what I've been back, actually. And I thought, to be fair, on that river, I thought I'd had most of the big uns. And whether the 14 that I had this year is a different fish or just grown on, but it's certainly not in my album, so that's a fresh 14.
Amazing. So there's some potential for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I like to see that because certain rivers you only catch big uns, you know, and I know that there ain't only big uns in there because, like I said, when I was catching barbel of 7, 8, 9, 10 pound, Pete was catching the monsters, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an amazing moment because I remember Dave was with me when I had the 15.5. He was upstream, so he photographed that, and then then I rang him the day after. I went, Dave, you ain't gonna believe this. I got another one. He went, oh mate, I'm putting the kids to bed. I said, Dave, you don't understand. I've got another one. He went, how big? And I went, mate, I think it's really big. And he went, bigger than yesterday's. And I went, equally as big, if not bigger. And he went, oh, fucking hell. Like, and he was like,
I've got to come down.
I went, mate, they're only kids. I went, you got 2 of them. There's only one of these, you know. So yeah, so bless him. He's took some mega photographs for me. Do you know what I mean? So,
Unreal.
Yeah, I'm going to repay the favour one day.
We've got to get wrapped up at some point here.
No.
But we've got to.
Let's do a 2-parter.
Is that the biggest barbel you've ever caught?
Yeah, that is the biggest barbel ever. And do you know what?
Is it the biggest barbel you've ever caught?
Why are you saying? Oh no, it's not. Of course, it's not. No, it's the biggest barbelous that I've ever caught.
Yeah.
Yes, but I
can't finish the podcast without talking about the Camiso barbel.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I've always wanted to catch a Camiso, right? Because of the predatory side of this, and obviously, like when you go to Spain, there's 12 different species of barbel.
What is a chamizo barbel?
Well, it's one of the rarest barbel on the planet. Oh, I mean, you got tigerist barbel and things like that that go to over 50 kilos, I mean, them things are super, super rare, do you know what I mean? But if you want to go to war zones and fish, then fine. But I just want to go to Spain, up in the mountains. But me and my mate Paul Austin, we went out there in January one year and we absolutely freezed our nuts off. It was like -5 every night. We never saw a fish roll, but we knew we was on the fish, right? It was just the wrong conditions to be lived on the bank. No internet, no phone signal, no nothing. The only thing
wild.
Mate, I remember... So the last day on the first trip, right, we hadn't seen a fish, none of us, 6 rods, not a single angler. We're literally 25 minutes across country, like on a cross-country, like Land Rover journey, right? Then jump in a boat 25 minutes down this massive, great 9-mile long lagoon sort of thing, right? So we're nowhere near civilization. The only thing we've seen is vultures up in the sky and boar. I've gone up for a poo with a view just on the last day. As the guy... Oh, mate, I've got some great views when I was having... I've got some wicked pictures.
Wildie,
of
proper
the views.
wildie.
Yeah, proper wildie, right? I've hung my toilet paper on this branch like that. I've pulled my kecks down. I'm just about to do the business and there's a rustle behind me, right? And I'm like, what the... Like, there's nothing here, mate. Nothing, right?
I'd have been off.
Yeah.
I've stood up and there's a stag stood behind me.
Way.
6 foot tall, looking me in the eye, couldn't have been more than 10 foot away, with horns like you wouldn't believe.
I bet you did the job pretty quick after that, didn't you?
I'm thinking to myself, he's either going to rape me or nail me, and I don't know which one I prefer.
What did you do?
This is the thing, right? For about 2 seconds, I froze, right?
Yeah.
What felt like a minute. And then I did what my old granddad used to do to dogs when they were pestering around. Because years ago, me and my sister, when we were kids, we were a bit terrified of dogs sort of thing, because we didn't have any dogs. And so my granddad's always, I'll never forget, they always used to go, "Gurcha!" So I stood up to this fucking great big stag like that, and I went, "Gurcha!" My mate Paul echoed his laughter, echoed around the mountains, and he went, "What the fuck are you doing?" I went, "Shut up, you fucker, I nearly died." Done my business, come back down, told him. Anyway, that was the only highlight of that trip.
No
right?
fish.
No fish, not a single thing. But we went back the November afterwards, right? And I was 2 days late going back because remember when I said earlier on we went out to Italy to do this reshoot to try and catch these catfish with Rooney? Well, we celebrated so hard that I ended up flying home, passing out on the plane and having 2 days proper chucking up and being a little bit ill. I missed my flight to Spain, yes. But I got out there 2 days late, and as I got out there, Paul had a carp, that was it, right? And carp are rare as rocking horse poo in this place as well. Anyway, it's such a weird thing because I'd read somewhere that chamizos take a lure. Now, I knew this weren't even a low stock. This was a naturally dammed lagoon sort of thing, right? Like sort of valley. And whatever was left in there is left in there. When they die, they're gone. There's no stocking policy or anything. It's totally wild. And you're living on a bank of mountains. Rods are sort of like 50 yards or 50 feet away in the bushes, tucked away so no one can see them. You're fishing, well, one of the rods I fished was 300 metres with a 10-ounce gripper and braid right the way down the bank because you can't help but make a bit of a commotion. And if you're the only one in 2 miles of bank, fish know you're there.
They're going to back off.
Yeah, so when Paul turned up 2 days before me, he said they were like boshing everywhere. Barbel, slapping, jumping.
Chamizos. So you know they're there now.
All over the place. He said there's hundreds of them, mate. Like, it was exaggerating. There weren't hundreds, but he said every single 20 minutes or something, he said that it's like they were hunting. So I'm like, I'm going to lure fish for them. You never get bites during the day, but I thought, I'm going to go over to the far bank, and the far bank was a sheer, like, rock face, just a cliff.
You got to go over in a boat, I'm assuming.
Yeah, 300 foot high, and then it just drops down 10 metres deep. So I've gone over, and I've just basically pulled myself into this sort of cavern on the far side, right? And I've tried to turn the boat. Echo sounds on the back of the boat, obviously, because it's just on there. And I've tried to turn the boat sideways so I can get super close and nestled in, so I can just do a bit of sort of drop shotting, right? I didn't have a clue. I thought, worst case scenario, I'll catch a couple of bass. Anyway, as I've turned the boat in, I've seen on this echo sounder, bang on 5 metres, half depth, a ledge about a foot 18 inches out. Like when you go to a posh hotel and have a seat in the shower.
Yes.
Like that. No bigger, right? You'd never know it was there unless you was trying to be an idiot and do lure fishing for fish that weren't really there. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I thought to myself, this place was like, when you go over onto the far side, this place was littered with crayfish holes. And bear in mind, Paul had told me that he just heard hundreds, inverted commas. There weren't hundreds. But lots of fish boshing through the night. I'm like, they're hunting. And every fish that had been caught, to our knowledge, was in 10 metres of water. I'm like, they ain't in 10 metres of water, like the old riverbed. We're 5 metres away from them, mate. You know, and I know how far that is because that's sort of how far I used to pole vault. So I'm thinking, I've got to put a rod on this ledge. Got to, right? So I've stuck a rod on this ledge. I've had 3 fish that night.
All camisos.
All camisos, right? The guy that the Spanish guy that sort of took us out there. So what he does, he drops you off, leaves you a dinghy. Every 2 days, brings you a fresh cooler of like cool box full of food, leaves you to it, right? He's fished it for 10 years, never had more than 2 fish in a night. I've had 3 fish that night. That's the biggest one, 21-12. But this rod was 300 metres down the bank from me, and halfway between us, our camp, and where this spot was, there's the biggest fallen Christmas tree looking thing that goes, I don't know, 30 metres out, right? And so I'm thinking to myself, like, we've got to get the far side of that tree before that fish gets to us, right? And they look like they fight like Billy-O, don't they?
They look evil.
Fight like they don't fight at all.
Honestly?
That one didn't anyway.
Just wobbling.
Not that I worked out, because I was too busy jumping in this dinghy, right? Because it's a damned like lagoon, water goes up a couple of metres every now and again, right? So rod's gone off, first rod, right? It's that one, right? Me and Paul have legged it down. I've got on the rod. I've gone, right, get the boat, right? And because it's pitch black, we're in the middle of nowhere, right? We're doubling up on the boat. He's rowing, right? And I'm playing the fish. And if he catches, I'm rowing. He plays the fish, right?
Good deal.
Right, yeah. So I'm playing the fish, right, like this. It's giving it a little bit. It's not fighting like a barbel fight, you know what I mean? But then I'm on £3 rods and £30 braids, you know what I mean? So I'm not really giving it too much. I'm going, row. Paul's going, I'm rowing. I went, you ain't fucking rowing, row. He's going, I'm rowing. Water had gone down about 1.5 metres. We're stuck on a rock.
Get away.
I've turned my head torch on, right, and I've looked, and the oars are literally in thin air. And bless him, old Paul's got his fastest hands. He's like Steve Redgrave on steroids. Honestly, mate, it was so funny.
Brilliant.
I'm like, mate, we've got to do this better. So we jumped in the boat, got out to it, right, and it's an absolute mess, if I'm absolutely honest. In a boat on my own, I'm sweet, but when you've got 2 people that are kind of dazed, and this is the first bite we've had after dark, and you know, we sort of don't know where we are, but I know we've gone past this tree, right? And Paul's trying to give it the left-hand stroke, and I'm wanting him to give it the right-hand stroke. And in the end, bless him, I've got my rod bent over backwards like this, right? And Paul's netting it behind me like that. And I've had a little poke over my shoulder, and I've just seen this fucking barbel like that laying on the surface. And the thing that really sort of annoyed me with most of the places is that there's a lot of sort of hybridised barbel. So the common and the hybrid, the common and the camiso sort of like, they have a little bit of a nookie. Do you know what I mean? It's like trying to go and catching true roach and then catching hybrids all the time.
Yes.
Lovely fish, but you want to really catch the jewel in the crown. And for the first one over there to be, I think I had 9 barbel that trip. Paul had 4. Paul had 1 genuine camiso. I had 2 genuine camisos. So the Spanish guy that we was using to help us, he's like a Spanish barbel scientist. So that's his like his specialty. So he come down and verified that one as 100%, like as good as you're gonna get.
What a fish!
Yeah, and they do go bigger, but that was 21-12, which was miles big enough for me. And if you had to ask me 2 fish that I could go back every single day and catch over and over and over again. The chub, obviously, because it took so long, and it's such like if you just
£8 1 ounce chub.
Mate, I can't even describe how magnificent it was. Because I'd seen an 8-pounder before, and I'd seen it's a scarfish, and obviously, if you're talking about a scarfish, it's a bit of an old, big, fat warrior, right? But the chub that I caught was mint. Like it was the most, it was like it was made for me, and the situation, the venue, and the scenario that in which we caught that, you know, and it was a team effort. I could do that every single day and never get bored.
Well, I'm not that bothered about going barbel fishing on a little UK river now. You can take me over there next year.
I would, mate.
I'll be
honestly,
coming as well.
Yeah,
I desperately wanted to do a show there, but the problem is you took one night of a crew being on that bank, and they'd be for 800 metres away.
Yeah.
You know, like when he turned up on his own, he said they were in front of him. 2 days later, I turned up and they were.
It's wild.
Yeah. Oh yeah, super wild. And it'd be too dangerous. You wouldn't be able to fill in what's the accident sheets that I never fill out.
Yeah.
What
do you mean? We always fill them out.
I just
We always
just sign it and do whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Before we get this wrapped up, have you brought us a gift?
I have.
Can we have a little look at it?
Of course you can.
What
Do you want me
is
to get it out now?
Yeah, go and get it out.
So remember I said earlier on the reason I actually the only reason I'm here, right? You know them dividing lines. You know Denise saying that to me and me going, I really want to be the best all-round athlete on the planet, and me like thinking, I don't care about fishing. I care about the knife. This is the knife.
Never.
No,
You're joking.
stop.
What a gift!
Yes.
Imagine a 9-year-old kid from Canvey in Essex running around with this bad boy. Look at that.
Look at that.
But you got to promise me, I'll leave this here as long as this place is up and standing and this podcast going. Don't throw this out.
No.
Dean,
It's only
never.
to be fair, it's only sitting in my pants drawer. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like I ever look at it. And trust me, if anyone breaks into Costa del Macey, I've got some nasty shit waiting for them anyway. But
What a gift!
Wow.
Look
But
at it.
Look at
that there is the reason I even accidentally started fishing.
Oh, what a gift.
That is awesome. I tell you what,
Blunt as heck.
we've got. I think we've got someone like Steve Ringer in next. He's got his work cut out.
Mate, every guest from here onwards has got their work
It's
cut
a
out.
do you know what?
Look at
I'm
that.
not a
It's
sentimental person. Like, I've still got the seat box. I've still got my dad's reels. Still got my dad's rods. You know what I mean? All that stuff.
Toby's got a wrist strap and everything.
No.
What is it?
No, see, look. Me being. No, this actually, because it's a diving knife. They were calf straps, right? But they kept getting in the way. So what I did was I cut this little bit here, so I could put it on my belt like Crocodile Dundee.
What a gift,
Quality.
Dino.
Oh, Dean, that's
But
quality.
I did this when I was 28.
Thank you very
That's
much,
the knife,
mate.
so-
What a gift.
What a
Dean,
gift.
Dean Macey.
Nothing to do with fishing, but everything to do with fishing. If you sort of
Everything
get
and
me.
more, mate.
Yeah. Dino, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you very, very much.
My pleasure.
Dean, I really enjoyed it too, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers, Tobe. Didn't you want to ask me something, Tobe?
I did, yeah, I did actually. We'll end,
Have we run out of time?
No, we'll end it on this. I was going to say the first time I ever met Dean was at one of the shows. He won't remember this, but I remember it because the first time I met you, and I was a lot younger at the time. First thing I thought was, that man's fucking massive. I just thought he was you were standing next to Wendy and you had fucking like 2 or 3 foot on her as well. I was sent to go and get the lunch run. I had no idea who you were. You were just somebody at the
Mate,
Guru
the lunch
stand.
run when we're at shows, in my mind, has to be taken very, very seriously.
Yeah, mate.
I don't care how much product we sell, but if my lunch ain't on my... Do you know what I mean?
Mate, and
food
I did a lunch run for this guy who was just massive. I didn't know who he was. And I bought everybody just a small box of chicken noodles.
Oh, I do remember it. What a letdown that was.
And I came back and I just went, I've got your lunch, Dean. He went, you got my what? And he just looked at me and went, what's this? And Wendy was there laughing behind him. I was going, but everybody's got, like, I thought nothing of it. And that was when she let me in that this man ate 6,000 calories a day, and that wasn't even half a starter. But it was that look, yeah. I thought I'd really upset him. I was like, I didn't even know who he was.
Oh,
And that was my first
now.
Do you know what? I get that an awful lot now, not people not knowing who I am, but I think it's the mask.
Especially
Yeah,
in
the
this
mask.
day and age.
But yeah, I thought get that one in before we end.
Brilliant, boys. Been a pleasure.
It's been my pleasure, mate.
The Fishing Gurus podcast.